He was just an F-rank warrior, weak, overlooked, practically a joke, until he awakened a system. Not just any system. This one powers him up only when his opponents get dirty. The stronger their lust, the stronger he becomes. And when their lust index maxes out, boom, he levels up hard. But that's not all. The system also grants him weapons, not your typical blades either. Think swords that explode clothes on contact. So yeah, this manhwa is about my guy, Sarah's, women, big boobs, even bigger boobs, plus feet, stockings, and way too much leg for anyone to stay holy. Enjoy the chaos. Sarah's, an upright man, explains that he recently activated a system which stirs the deepest lust of anyone he locks onto. The scene then shifts to a chaotic battlefield where adventurers are fleeing, having realized they were lured into a trap by unexpectedly high-level monsters. Sayers, on the other hand, explained that at first he didn't want this system, but this battle changed his mind, especially Demon King's wife, Princess Yogg, a powerful female monster who easily overpowers a human hero, questioning the feebleness of human power. Sayers encounters an injured D-class hero, Bella, who urges him, an F-grade hero, to flee due to the dangerous Warcraft levels. However, Sayers declares he came to protect the city and cannot retreat, confidently stating he can handle Princess Yogg. The princess, meanwhile, dismisses humans as too weak to interest her. Sayers, resolute despite a sudden nosebleed, reaffirms his decision not to run, which surprises Bella. As Yogg's minions spot Sayers, she orders them to kill him and intends to use his head as a drinking cup for her king. At this moment, Sayers' login system, I love the man before me, activates. Yogg lunges, and as she grabs him, the system locks on and activates, compelling her to kiss him. This act grants Sayers one bonus attack point, making him realize his system can continuously enhance his abilities. Bella and Yogg's minions watch in stunned disbelief. Yogg, confused by her own actions, wonders why she kissed him instead of killing him. Sayers, emboldened, proclaims his readiness to fight to the end for the city's safety. Yogg's minions begin to gossip about the kiss and rumors of her having a human lover, though a loyalist among them scolds the others. Yogg, flustered, silently hopes her king never discovers the incident, feeling her heart race strangely. She then commands her minions to kill Sayers. Sayers engages a minion, but his sword shatters on impact. He notes his attack power increased by 1 point, though his defense remains unchanged. He manages to send a minion flying, impressing Bella, who marvels at his unexpected strength. Sayers, however, feels he should have done more damage, as the monster only received a scratch. Before he can react further, Princess Yogg attacks him from above. Her minions cheer, believing she has him, and Bella cries out in alarm. However, Yogg suddenly stops her attack and orders everyone to halt, declaring she will teach Sayers a lesson herself, her lust index now at 91%. Her minions eagerly agree as she leans in and licks Sayers' ear, granting him 50 defense points. Sayers internally questions this humiliating price for power, but resolves that such an insult is minor compared to the safety of the city's residents. Yogg reflects on her strange behavior while Sayers, feeling his body act against his will, exclaims in confusion. Another system notification grants him 120 agility points. One of Yogg's minions correctly deduces she is searching for the weak spot in his body. Sayers, seeing his defense 120 and attack power 150 increase, believes he might now be strong enough to be able to handle these demonic beasts. He lunges at Yogg, declaring it's his turn, but realizes his current strength is still insufficient. Seeing this, one of Yogg's minions, now convinced of her intent to kill Sayers, rallies the others. Yogg, feeling her body growing stranger, resolves to hold back, but then decides to strip Sayers, tearing off his chest armor to show humans the difference between their bodies and monsters, though she inwardly admits she wants to see his body. Her minions praise her ruthlessness. Sayers' armor is gone. He tries to resist as her hand reaches for him. She feels something welling up inside her, determined to endure, as her lust value hits 1%. Yogg then pins him down, her weight surprising him. He cries out in frustration, realizing his strength is still not enough to defeat her. Bella, watching from a distance, blushes and wonders if they are truly fighting. Sayers, for the sake of the city, resigns himself to sacrificing his little self for the greater good. He then grabs Yogg's head, pulling her towards him, shouting for her to bring it on, as he just has more power and stats. Numerous stat boosts appear: agility +2, defensive +3, concentration +450, sense +7, intelligence +830, endurance +9, magic power 10, and attack power +11. Suddenly, a massive horned figure, Demon Lord Bartley, appears, shocking Yogg. The system announces, detected Demon Lord Bartley, critical hit received. All bonus values are doubled and increased by level +1. Bartley addresses Yogg as his beloved wife and declares his intent to kill Yogg. She panicked, tries to explain to the king that it's not what it looks like. Ceres, now visibly more muscular and holding a new, empowered sword, silently wonders if his current enhanced level will be enough to face this new threat. The Demon Lord Bartley, an A-level entity, fiercely attacks Ceres, demanding he stay away from his wife, Princess Yogg. Though injured, Ceres manages to hold on, noting Bartley's instantaneous arrival and formidable attack power. Bartley then turns to Yogg, questioning her recent actions and reminding her of a previous promise. Yogg, however, deflects the blame onto Bartley, accusing him of tardiness, which nearly led her to repeat past mistakes. Bartley quickly apologizes, explaining he was delayed by dealing with fleeing humans. His minions observe the exchange, remarking on the king's deep affection for the queen and his willingness to admit fault. Meanwhile, Ceres, recognizing the vast power difference between himself and Bartley, decides it's best to discreetly make his escape while they are distracted. Yogg then begins to cry, reiterating that Bartley's late arrival caused her to be tempted by Ceres, almost sullying their pure love. Bartley comforts her, reaffirming his devotion and placing all blame on Ceres, whom he now vows to kill. Meanwhile, Yogg playfully says that he is her one true love, and even in death they will return to nothingness together, and she loves the majestic and domineering demeanor of him. After listening that Bartley's attention shifts to his minions, berating them for not stopping the escaping humans. They remind him that Princess Yogg had previously ordered them not to interfere, to which Bartley calls them brainless. Turning his rage back to Ceres, Bartley launches another assault, accusing Ceres of seducing Yogg. Ceres takes severe damage, suspecting broken ribs and acknowledging Bartley's overwhelming speed and power, concluding he is completely outmatched. As Bartley prepares a finishing blow, intent on splitting him in two parts as punishment for his perceived transgression, Ceres realizes his only recourse is to continue upgrading his abilities through his system, urging it to lock on quickly. Unexpectedly, Yogg rushes forward, shielding Ceres and urging Bartley not to harm him. Bartley is stunned by her intervention. The system registers, Demon King Bartley has suffered another severe mental blow, granting him another level up. Ceres momentarily wonders if he can win and considers retreating further. However, Yogg then declares her intense desire for Ceres' body, shocking Bartley, who reminds her of her vows of eternal love to him. Overwhelmed, Yogg exclaims she can no longer bear it, and she doesn't want to express desire anymore. She then pounces on Ceres, and their contact triggers a series of stat boosts for him. Vitality, concentration, attack power, perception, and agility all increase, though Ceres feels utterly at her mercy. Witnessing this, Bartley blames his own inadequacy for Yogg being taken advantage of by a human and resolves to kill Ceres to restore her to normal. Yogg, however, furiously tells Bartley to leave and not to disturb her quality time. The system announces that Demon King Bartley is broken, gains another 5 levels. At this critical moment, Bella reappears, intervening and demanding the shameless monster, Yogg, release Ceres, but Ceres warns Bella that it's too dangerous for her to get involved as she attacks Yogg. Yogg easily strikes Bella down. Yogg then reflects on her own perplexing behavior, feeling like she's no longer herself, yet admitting to a little joy deep within. Bartley, utterly devastated by Yogg's actions and words, accuses her of repeatedly lying to him. Enraged and heartbroken, he attacks Yogg, calling her a bitch, and decides to kill them both. As the Demon King attacks, Yogg calmly turns to face him. At the last moment, he stopped and tearfully professed that he still loves her so much. The system then announces that Demon King Bartley is experiencing a complete mental breakdown and is about to self-destruct. Yogg anxiously asks Bartley what he intends to do. His minions, realizing the imminent danger, panic and decide to flee for their lives. As Bartley's self-destruction sequence begins, Ceres' level increases to 10 and a new skill, Instant Slash, is unlocked. By this skill, you can transform your physical body into a phantom and instantly appear around your target within a 6-foot radius. Then you can launch a slash against your target. Sears utilizes his newly unlocked skill, transforming into a phantom and striking Bartley. The attack successfully halts Bartley's self-destruction. Sears considers that further upgrades should grant him more skills. Princess Yogg, observing the outcome, remarks that Bartley was much cooler last time. She thought he would be even, calmer this time, questioning, how come he collapsed? Bartley, however, seizes Yogg, insisting she honor her promise to die with him. Yogg desperately struggles, proclaiming her unwillingness to die and crying out for rescue. In the process, she even releases Bella. Sears intervenes with another swift body slash. Bartley, however, explodes. The force of the impact causes the ground beneath them to shatter, and they all plummet downwards. Sears finds himself wondering if he's reached the dungeon's bottom. He then spots Yogg, who has transformed into a teenage salamander form with critically low magic and health. Bella then appears on top of Sears. At that moment, Sears' system announces the successful defeat of Demon Lord Bartley and rewards him with the Neye dungeon map, prompting him to decide whether to open it. But he couldn't, because if he taped on yes, he'll some undescribable parts of Bella. Bella, after realizing, offers an apology before inquiring about Sears. While Bella was embarrassed, Sears contemplates the decision, touches the yes option on the system interface only he can see. The map opens, clearly marking dead ends, traps, resource locations, and boss rooms, much to Sears' realization that the entire dungeon layout is now visible to him. Pleased with this development, Sears remarks that he can now proceed directly to the boss room without fear of getting lost. Bella, confused, asks what he's referring to and if he saw something. Sears dismisses her question, knowing the system is visible only to him, and they agree to move on. However, as they begin to leave, Sears suddenly cries out in intense pain. His back appears to be melting, and Bella, noticing the bleeding, tries to lift him to prevent further abrasion against the ground. She observes that his body is incredibly hot, as if he's been burned. After a moment of heavy panting, Sears assures her he's all right. Once Sears sits up, Bella presses him about the strange melting of his body. Sears then reveals he is poisoned, and begins to recount an incident from 6 months prior when monsters attacked the city. He had witnessed several monsters battling a hero from the guild, seemingly over a box, which was eventually slashed open by one of the creatures. Continuing his story, Sears explains he was thrown into some ruins by the force of their battle. Shortly after, a blood rain with a pungent, sickening odor began to fall from the sky. Although he wasn't in direct contact, having taken shelter amongst the rocks, the mere smell of the blood rain was enough to poison him, causing an agonizing sensation as if his back were melting. He concludes his flashback by stating he later woke up in a hospital, where a doctor informed him he had at most 1 year left to live. It was then that a system prompt appeared, offering to bind with him, make him a player, and provide clues to acquire the blood of the demon god, the only thing that could cure his poison. He accepted, and the system revealed that the cure was located within the Neye dungeon. Returning to the present, Sears tells Bella that he subsequently learned the antidote was indeed in this very dungeon. He then notices a nearby room indicated on his map that contains clothes and weapons, suggesting they head there first, to which Bella agrees. A crusade squad, led by Vice Captain Tyre, B-Class, cautiously navigates a corridor where Tyre shouts for everyone to step back, warning of a trap mechanism. He instructs them to remain still, explaining that reckless movement could trigger other traps, especially since their strongest defender, Claude, was easily killed by the trap mechanism. The squad members express concern about how to proceed now that the cannon fodder group, presumably sent ahead as bait, is gone, leaving them with no one to test the path. Captain Cyrus, A grade, then arrives and, invoking old rules, declares that the lowest grade member must go first. He orders Ma Kui, D grade, to walk ahead and find the correct route, implicitly threatening him with the consequences of disobedience. Vice Captain Tyre attempts to buy time by suggesting to use a specially made bouncing arrow to scout for trap mechanisms, hoping to increase chances of Ma Kui's survival. Captain Cyrus, however, angrily slashes his arrow, warning him against presenting such shoddy creations again and threatening to kill him if he does. He forcefully orders Ma Kui to get up and explore the way. Trembling, Makuai slowly advances, hesitating at each step as he tries to determine a safe path. Another squad member impatiently urges him to hurry and not waste everyone's time. Makui continues, but eventually collapses, exclaiming that he can't go on and doesn't want to die, wishing he could go home. Suddenly, an energy beam erupts from below, striking Makuai, and that was one-shot kill. A squad member notes the attack came from beneath, speculating that the mechanism's attack location might change each time, and that the beam's sudden appearance makes it impossible to perceive its origin, making it impossible to dodge. What do you think will happen next? Nothing interesting. Squad captain again asks the lowest one to come out. Just then, someone shouts that a door is opening. Captain Cyrus turns to see Cirrus and Bella emerging from the newly opened doorway, much to his surprise. Recognizing them as members of the decoy team, which he believed should have been eliminated, Captain Cyrus questions why they are there and if Cirrus disobeyed his orders to escape and end up here. He angrily confronts Cirrus, demanding to know why he's still alive. Vice Captain, relieved after seeing Bella, and asks her if she is okay. The scene then flashes back to one day before departure, where Captain Cyrus is furiously questioning Cirrus about how he knew the color of his wife's underwear. Cirrus explains he was training his instincts for the upcoming battle, allowing him to perceive the colors of things around him. Another squad member tries to calm the captain, reminding him that killing people in the city is illegal. Cyrus, however, demands Cirrus explain his relationship with his wife, Shukin, or face death, accusing Cirrus's integrity. To prove his abilities, Cirrus proceeds to reveal the underwear colors of other squad members, one wearing pink and another wearing none, while also pointing out two members wearing matching couple underwear. Enraged, a squad member urges the captain to kill Cirrus. Another advises against it, warning of trouble if a body is discovered in the city, then suggests that Cirrus be placed in the bait group to eliminate him without direct involvement. Returning to the present, Cirrus explains he was merely circling around to exchange equipment when he encountered the raiding party, who seemed to be lost. Captain Cyrus, recognizing Cirrus, orders him to come over, intending for him to lead the way through the mechanisms. However, Vice Squad Captain interjects, suggesting that since Cirrus and Bella made it through alive, they should simply follow their route to avoid further risk to the team. However, Captain Cyrus dismisses the suggestion, stating they've already lost dozens of valuable combat members in this C-grade dungeon and cannot turn back, and suggests him to leave if he doesn't like that. Cyrus tells Cirrus that his trained intuition should now be used to contribute to the team, reminding him of the consequences of disobedience. Cirrus opens the map given by the system as the reward. Bella, alarmed, tells Cirrus not to go, pointing out the clear danger and suggesting they find another way. Cirrus, however, tells her not to worry, stating he'll be fine as the captain has already ordered him to go over there. He then confidently steps forward, following the directions on his map. Go forward 3 spaces, then turn left 2 spaces, then go forward 3 spaces. The squad members watch in disbelief as Cirrus takes his first steps without hesitation. One remarks on his luck as he reaches the 3rd step unharmed. Cirrus then turns left and takes 2 more steps, prompting questions about whether he knows the right path. Another squad member scoffs, stating that an F-grade hero wouldn't have access to intelligence, especially since gathering information on just the first half of the dungeon cost over a dozen intelligence agents, concluding it must be luck. Cirrus then jumps a step and lands safely, merely wobbling a bit. Captain Cyrus watches intently, questioning why the mechanism hasn't been triggered. Cirrus's map then instructs him to go forward 5 spaces. As he approaches the end of the trapped corridor, he remarks that he's almost there. The squad observes in amazement as he nears their position. Cirrus arrives unharmed, not a single mechanism triggered. The squad members are astonished, wondering if he truly sensed the traps through intuition. Cirrus proudly declares it the result of his training, also proclaiming his and Shukin's innocence. Captain Cyrus, however, dismisses it as mere luck, asserting that luck will eventually run out and orders Cirrus to lead the way from that point forward. As Cirrus and the Crusade squad traverse the dungeon, Cirrus spots some mushrooms, identifying them as kale mushrooms, which benefit monsters but cause diarrhea in humans. So pick some mushrooms for Yogg, little lizard. Despite knowing the properties of mushrooms, Ceres is tempted by their delicious smell and considers a small lick. However, observing this, Captain Cyrus grabs one and eats it and angrily reminds Ceres that all resources in the conquered dungeon belong to the Heroes Guild and his crusade squad. Also warn him not to steal Anai loot without permission and order him to the front. Ceres, using his map, informs the captain that there are no traps behind the next door and they can proceed directly. Cyrus, irritated, states he won't risk his combat-valuable team members and orders Ceres to open the door quickly. As the door begins to open, Cyrus warns everyone to stay alert. Suddenly, his stomach rumbles and he wonders what's wrong. He then tells the squad the door is open and to be vigilant for unexpected occurrences. A foul smell emanates from beyond the door, and Cyrus, realizing something is amiss, feels his stomach act up again. Cyrus asks Ceres what's in there. Clutching his stomach, Cyrus inwardly laments his ill-timed discomfort and suspects the mushrooms are the cause, worrying about potential leakage if he moves too intensely. At the same time, Ceres purposely announces to the squad that, from his observation, the area is riddled with traps. Suddenly, he shouts for his teammates to keep pace and run through together. Confused, one asks if there's something behind them and why they are running. Another member admits he doesn't know. The foul smell intensifies, and squad members, realizing it's poisonous and a mechanism is present, curses the monsters, remarking he knew it couldn't be safe. Other squad members also identify the poisonous smell and ask why this smell seems familiar. Captain Cyrus, angrily, asks them to stop talking nonsense and orders everyone to run or risk being poisoned. He then grabs Ceres, questioning his sudden sprint and asking if he knows the properties of the mushrooms. Ceres plays innocent and asks what's wrong. Another squad member, noticing the captain's distress, suggests he sit and rest. Cyrus, however, pulls himself together and orders everyone to keep moving forward. He then warns Ceres that if he dares to run again, he will be killed immediately, to which Ceres meekly agrees. Using his map, Ceres guides the team, pointing out specific tiles to avoid and directing them along a safe path. As they proceed, Captain Cyrus internally notes the lack of triggered mechanisms or monster encounters, observing that the further they go, the fewer traps there seem to be. He briefly wonders if Ceres has been there before, but dismisses the thought, reasoning that Ceres would have been eaten by the D-level monster at the entrance without the team's protection. He then muses that once they reach the boss room, Ceres will have no further value, regardless of his luck. Ceres tells them that if they go further, they should be nearing the big boss's room. Cyrus muses again that if we have already reached the boss room, then Ceres has reached the end here. As Ceres takes another step, Cyrus triggers a stone spike to crash down from the ceiling onto Ceres. Captain Cyrus remarks that an F-level dungeon explorer being crushed by a dungeon mechanism is quite a reasonable excuse they can make. However, the slab was unexpectedly destroyed by a monster who suddenly appeared, unintentionally saving Ceres. The monster instead hits Cyrus. However, Cyrus manages to block the attack. Otherwise, he would have died on the spot. As the monster lands on the ground, the impact causes the cave to collapse, separating Ceres with others. Ceres tries to find a way through rubbles, but then a purple-haired elf-like woman appears, looking down at him with disdain, wondering why a disgusting human is there. The battle commenced as a large mechanical scorpion puppet identified as a B+ rank creation of Sadiel appeared, prompting a leader referred to as VC Tier to order the tankers forward to block its advance and prevent it from breaking through their lines, while archers were commanded to open fire from the rear. Despite the continuous volley of arrows, the scorpion puppet let out a deafening roar and effortlessly repelled the projectiles with its sheer force, leading VC to exclaim that their initial attack had no effect. Captain Cyrus chided his troops for their fear-induced paralysis, urging them not to be intimidated by the monster's aura and reminding them that it was a single enemy they could overcome. Meanwhile, Ceres, still pondering the origin of a voice he'd heard, suddenly found himself facing the puppet's swift tail attack. Reacting quickly, he declared his intent to use his fist, boasting of its 3190 attack power, and successfully shattered the scorpion puppet with a single punch. Sadiel, an A+ rank monster, who acknowledged that he had destroyed one of her puppets. Ceres then mentioned that the antidote which can cure him was in the boss's room ahead, and possessing a map, he intended to escape directly to avoid further meaningless conflict. However, she quickly amended this, stating it didn't matter as she planned to discard anything touched by disgusting humans anyway, revealing she had initially intended for the puppet to twist off his head but would now have to do it herself. Ceres reacted with surprise, questioning if she was a female monster, to which Sadiel dismissively replied before declaring her intention to deal with him first and then eliminate the humans outside. Ceres retorted that his head wasn't so easily dispatched. Sadiel, expressing her disgust, stated she wouldn't touch his disgusting body and could handle the other humans with one hand. In response, Ceres proclaimed himself a hero dedicated to protecting humanity, vowing to fight her and block her path, even if it exhausted all his strength, just as a system activation was indicated. Sadiel questioned his resolve and lunged, managed to catch Ceres. As Ceres struggled against Sadiel, a target locked notification appeared alongside an 168 agitation value. Other side, one of the warriors excitedly pointed out to the others that the monster's head had turned red, suggesting their attacks were finally having an effect. But it was just the Ceres' system doing the work. Sadiel moved with incredible speed, impressing him, but she coolly stated that while his reaching her was impressive for a human, his progress ended there, adding that Lord Ney detested humans entering his room. Determined, Ceres recognized her overwhelming strength and resolved that he absolutely had to stop her from reaching the outside, leading him to lick her foot. Sadiel reacted with extreme revulsion, calling him disgusting for touching her feet, but she was also feeling good. On the other side, everyone was overpowered by the monster, but Bella's focus was still in Ceres, observing the lack of movement in the rubbles. However, she also knew that Ceres wouldn't be incapacitated by mere stones and declared she needed to retrieve him. She asked the voice captain, Tyr, to provide cover while she attempted the rescue. Tyr tried to stop her, but it was too late. She was already on the way, and when the monster tried to attack her, he was able to save her. On the other hand, Sadiel let out a shriek of disgust as Ceres burst free from her grip. Coughing, Ceres stated he had finally broken free, enraging Sadiel further. She furiously declared that he had dared to make her feet filthy and vowed to make him pay the price for his actions. A system notification informed Ceres that he couldn't use his instant kill skill without a weapon, causing him to curse his oversight and realize he was now limited to using his fists as he charged towards Sadiel. Sadiel retaliated by kicking Ceres in the face, remarking on its pulpy texture and the satisfying feeling of the kick while her agitation value went 54%. Momentarily flustered, Sadiel wondered about her unusual reaction, but quickly refocused on the need to eliminate Ceres swiftly, concerned that the other humans might intrude upon Lord Ney's room. As she used her power to control the monster tail to attack Ceres, Ceres observed her advance, confident his agility would allow him to dodge. Ceres channeled magic into his hands and was able to destroy the tails, however was caught again. Sadiel warned him that she wouldn't let him escape this time and intended to strangle him with her feet. Ceres, however, challenged her to experience the power of his grip. As he squeezed her leg, Sadiel cried out, and a notification indicated her defense had increased by 130, and then she steps on his face. Ceres yelped in pain as Sadiel, infuriated, ordered him not to touch her legs with his dirty hands, and her reformed scorpion tail struck him down. Lying on the ground, Ceres observed that the tail he had previously broken was active again, and that Sadiel's suppressive power was too strong for him to evade. Sadiel then declared her intention to crush his head. As she stood over him, system messages indicated increases to Ceres' stamina, perception, and magic. Sadiel, with a strange expression of pleasure, wondered why stepping on him felt so good and mused about stepping all over his body to explore the sensations, her agitation value now at 66%, before asserting that humans were merely born to be trampled. Bro is seriously suffering from success. Meanwhile, outside, the large mechanical scorpion puppet began to shake. A warrior voice captain excitedly declared that the monster was losing its balance and that they were on the verge of victory. Back with Sadiel and Ceres, a notification announced an increase in his attack power by 240 while Sadiel was having the time of her life. The agitation value climbed to 89%. Back outside, a warrior urgently warned Bella that the scorpion's tail was heading her way. The tail struck Bella, prompting VC to shout her name. Bella was sent flying and fell behind Cyrus. Beneath Sadiel's foot, a blushing Cirrus pleaded for her to wait, insisting she wasn't allowed to touch him there. Sadiel continued to press down on Cirrus. Outside, the scorpion tail attacked Cyrus once more. However, the monster missed, but Cyrus didn't even dodge. He noted its ability to penetrate the wall even from a distance, deducing the monster's rank exceeded that of an elite. Sadiel, still focused on Cirrus, again commented on the pulpy and great sensation, the agitation value now at 95%. Cyrus then realized with alarm that he hadn't perceived the monster's movement as its pincers closed in for an attack. He felt it was too late to block, while Sadiel let out a pleased sound. They stopped and Cyrus thought that he had blocked the attack. But why did the monster stop? It's because it's controlled by Sadiel, and she, right now, is having the time of her life. Seizing the opportunity as the monster recoiled, Cyrus prepared his roaring tiger, severing strike. His powerful attack landed, visibly damaging the mechanical scorpion. His comrades cheered for Captain Cyrus, praising his might and exclaiming that a single strike had severely wounded the A-rank monster. As the agitation value hit 98%, Sadiel let out another sound, and the mechanical scorpion screamed, but not from the force of Cyrus's blow, because of Sadiel. The warriors celebrated, hailing Captain Cyrus's true strength and feeling secure in his presence. Cyrus, however, observed that this particular monster didn't seem exceptionally strong and believed he could defeat it easily, while Sadiel made a soft, satisfied noise. Cyrus commanded the others to stand back, announcing his intention to deal with the monster himself and demonstrate the strength of an A-rank captain. Sadiel, internally conflicted and flustered by her own reactions, questioned what was happening to her as she found herself engaging in such acts with a human body, trying to regain her composure. Beneath her, Ceres noted her surprising resilience, particularly her legs, and worried that if the current situation continued, she would completely drain him of his strength. He defiantly vowed never to submit, prompting Sadiel to angrily tell him to shut up, as she didn't want to hear his voice, while system notifications indicated substantial increases to Ceres's vitality, stamina, and concentration. Meanwhile, outside, Cyrus unleashed his sacred whirlwind slash against the large mechanical scorpion, which let out a roar. His men cheered enthusiastically, exclaiming that their captain's signature skill was too strong and had beaten the monster to the point of unconsciousness, causing it to roar uncontrollably, with one even crudely stating the captain had fucked the monster with his final strike. Cyrus, standing amidst the aftermath, declared the monster was nothing but a punching bag before him and had been defeated with a single strike, earning more adulation from his troops. Ceres, on the other hand, getting a continuous increase to his own defense, agility, and perception. Coming back, Cyrus got full of himself and boasted that he was just too strong. The commotion reached Ne, the boss. Sadiel, who recognized the voice of Ne-sama, falls back, recalling Ne-sama's command, and realizing her lapse, resolved to quickly kill the filthy humans to make amends for her mistake. However, now it was too late. Ceres had got a 10,000 attack power boost, asking if she still wished to continue playing. Sadiel sensed a completely different, chilling, and oppressive pressure emanating from Ceres. She found herself questioning if she truly had to fight against someone like him. Deciding against it, she turned and fled. Ceres, observing Sadiel's fleeing, briefly considered whether to pursue her, but ultimately decided against it, prioritizing his main objective, obtaining the blood of the demon god in the boss room. He reasoned it was better not to consume more physical strength, especially since his encounter with Sadiel had already taken a significant toll. In the background, Cyrus's men continued to laud their captain's supposed invincibility. As Bella approached the pile of rocks, Ceres came out, prompting her to inquire if he was all right, and expressing concern that, despite no visible injuries, he might have internal ones due to being covered in dust, suggesting the medical team take a look. Ceres assured her he was completely fine, but Bella insisted he let her know immediately if he felt unwell, to which he agreed. Witnessing all of this, the voice captain, who likes Bella, was pissed. Cyrus then rallied his men, instructing them to follow him as he intended to defeat the boss alone, proclaiming his might. He privately mused that the dungeon's danger level was probably D rank at best, and reporting his achievements would surely lead to a promotion, a significant gain. In the boss room, Sadiel knelt before Ne-sama, reporting the presence of a very powerful human outside whose initially feeble strength had skyrocketed to an unimaginable extent in an instant, cautioning Ne-sama to be careful. Ne-sama coldly interrupted, asking Sadiel what her command to her had been. Sadiel dutifully recited her order to guard the door and prevent any creatures from entering her room. Ne-sama then pointedly asked what then she was doing there, stating she didn't want to hear her lame excuses. Before Sadiel could fully respond, she struck her down, the dungeon boss Ne now fully revealed. As Sadiel fell, Ne-sama declared she had simply become firewood and throw her on the pile of corpses. Sadiel, in her final moments, lamented that she didn't want to die yet. Ne-sama continued, stating that after waiting so long and using thousands of humans and monsters as firewood, the blood of the demon god had finally begun to boil. She then turned, sensing an intrusion, and questioned who was brave enough to set foot in her room. Cyrus stepped forward, boldly announcing that, "Your daddy has come to beat the hell out of you." A system notification appeared for Cyrus, stating that the blood of the demon god could eliminate toxins in the body after consumption, leading Cyrus to realize that this was the very thing that could detoxify him. Ne-sama, observing Cyrus, wondered if this was the powerful human Sadiel had mentioned. Cyrus then addressed his men, ordering them to listen clearly. No one was allowed to act without his command, as he intended to take down the C-rank dungeon boss by himself. His men erupted in cheers, urging Captain Cyrus to kill the boss and show the monster the power of humans. Cyrus charged at Ne, shouting for the monster to feel his terror. Ne met the charge with a powerful counterattack that sent Cyrus flying, his armor shattering upon impact. Cyrus's men cried out his name in alarm. Ne, unimpressed, remarked that this was all the most powerful human being had to offer and called Sadiel useless. Cyrus, recovering, noted that the attack's power was nonsensical, having shattered his A-rank armor in one blow. He acknowledged that he was fortunate to be wearing the S-level soft dragon scale armor his brother had given him. Otherwise, he would have certainly perished. His men rushed to his side, questioning the situation and the disparity in strength among the monsters. Cyrus, realizing a direct confrontation was unwise, decided it was better to use his team members to exhaust the monster's strength first, planning to re-engage when Ne was weakened, thus increasing his own chances of winning. Cyrus then commanded everyone to follow his orders, instructing all members to charge forward and showcase their expertise. Bella, however, interjected, expressing concern that a full charge without formation could result in unnecessary casualties, and suggested they stick to their previous formation with tankers in front. Cyrus angrily questioned if she was defying his judgment or commands, and when she denied it, he curtly told her to stop talking and just do as he said. He then rallied all members to pick up their weapons and charge, assuring them he was their solid support. As the humans rushed forward, Ne commented on the arrival of a bunch of fucking humans who don't know whether to live or die, adding that their flesh and blood didn't even qualify as sacrificial firewood, and then that went light. She wanted them to understand the despair-inducing disparity between humans and monsters. Ne then unleashed a devastating wave of energy that swept through the charging warriors, instantly disintegrating small planes, many of them amidst cries of pain. She then mockingly asked Cyrus if he hadn't said he would make her feel terror. Cyrus, witnessing the slaughter, realized he couldn't win and ordered a retreat, telling those still alive to leave. Cyrus, however, confronted Cyrus, grabbed his arm and reminded him that he had just declared himself their solid support, and that his battle with the boss wasn't over, so he couldn't leave yet. Cyrus retorted that as team captain, his word was law, and if Cyrus wanted to stay and die, he was free to do so, but shouldn't drag him along. As Cyrus tried to flee, Ne, observing his attempt to escape after trespassing and causing havoc, prepared another attack. Cyrus frantically warned Cyrus that the boss was about to unleash the same light beam as before. Cyrus struggled, complaining that he couldn't pull his hand out due to Cyrus's strong grip, and desperately yelled for Cyrus to let go as the boss was aiming its attack at them. He lamented that he couldn't defeat the boss and couldn't even overcome a worthless F rank like Cirrus. Nai's beam struck Cyrus, who screamed in pain. Cirrus sternly told Cyrus that as the captain, he must stick to his words and be a solid support for his team members, blocking the boss's attacks with his body to cover their retreat. Cyrus was vaporized by the blast, his tattered armor falling to the ground near his teammates. Cirrus then declared it was his turn. Amidst the fleeing teammates, Bella stated that she wanted to stay, and Tyre added that he also would, explaining to Bella that he knew she was staying because of Cirrus. Tyre then proclaimed himself the first-ranked B-class hero, whose duty was to eliminate monsters and never run away, adding that he no longer wanted to take commands from an idiot like Cyrus. Nay, observing that Ceres hadn't fled even after witnessing her power, questioned if she was being looked down upon, but before anything, Ceres launched a swift body slash. Nae, commenting on Ceres' incredible speed, dodged the attack, and then she was met with another surprise, that Ceres wasn't in plane to attack her. He made a direct dash towards the altar, exclaiming that his antidote, the blood of the demon god, was within reach. Nay, surprised by Ceres' sudden change in direction, realized that his opponent's goal might not be to kill her, but rather to obtain the blood of the demon god. This is the moment we find out that Nay is not a he, but a she, by looking at some very big unusual stuff. Ceres declared he was just a little bit away from obtaining his goal, but Nay furiously warned the filthy human to stay away from his altar. Tyre sees this as an opportunity and intervenes with an attack, warning Nay not to dare attack Ceres. Nay, however, easily dodged. We shouldn't forget that he has 4 hands. She remarked that Ceres was really fast, like a cockroach. As she tried to aim at Ceres and attack, Bella pushed forward and Nay missed. Undeterred, Ceres leaped towards the altar, exclaiming that his antidote was almost there, but his hand was repelled by a shimmering barrier, a magic array, which sent him crashing to the wall. Naya explained that she had personally created the magic array, and that as long as she was alive, no living creature could cross it. Ceres, picking himself up, acknowledged that charging straight for the demon god's blood wasn't feasible, and that they would have to defeat the boss to proceed. Suddenly, he sensed something nearby. Sadiel, battered and trembling inside a little cave, pleading with him not to make any noise, and not to let Ne-sama know she was there. Ne, meanwhile, stated that her ritual required a calm and peaceful demeanor, and after killing a few of the stinky bugs, she planned to visit their town again to quell her anger. As Nai turned her attention towards Bella, who was now in danger, Ceres, realizing the peril, quickly put some kale mushrooms for Sadiel to recover her power and ran toward Bella. Just then, a system notification informed him that the female monster Sadiel had developed affection towards him, fulfilling the weapon unlocking requirements and making weapon options available. Tyr, seeing Bella in danger, urged her to escape while he held Nay back, revealing that the bone in his leg had cracked again and advising her to leave without him. Ceres, however, impatiently skipped the detailed explanation of the weapon rules, declaring he was going to rescue people and didn't have time for nonsense, and quickly chose a card. He obtained the Exploding Garment Divine Sword and charged at Nay, asking her to try his new weapon. Nay, however, dismissed Ceres' attack, revealing that Bella and Tyr were merely bait and that her true target was the speedy human cockroach, Ceres himself. She taunted Ceres, wondering how he would dodge at such close range, but Ceres retorted not to underestimate him, as he never said he was going to dodge, and attacks Nay. But it didn't do any much. Nay mockingly pointed out that despite exerting all his strength, he had only managed to graze Nay's skin without drawing blood, highlighting the gap between humans and monsters. However, then something shocking happened. Nay looked down in shock, and found out that her upper clothes had been torn apart automatically. She started freaking out. Bella and Tyr stared in disbelief, with Tyr exclaiming that Ceres had stripped the boss. Ceres, holding his new sword, acknowledged that the monster was truly powerful. A description of the Exploding Garment Divine Sword explained that strikes from it cause enemies' clothes to explode, and when the enemy is naked, it triggers the ultimate move, Divine Sword Descent. Nay, now half-naked and enraged, furiously called Ceres a filthy bastard for his despicable move and roared that she was going to kill him. Cirrus outlines his strategy to attack Nay's legs to remove her lower robe, then her mask, which he believes will trigger an ultimate move to defeat her. His plan involves getting close and repeatedly using the swift body slash skill. However, a system notification reveals he only has enough magic power for 6 uses of this skill, which also has a 10-second cooldown unless used on a new target. Despite initially deeming the skill shitty, he decides to keep it active and proceeds to use Swift Body Slash. He executes the attack but misses because Nai jumped. Meanwhile, Nai expresses her annoyance at his persistent targeting of her legs, questioning if he intends to strip her completely and labeling him a filthy bastard. Undeterred, Cirrus prepares for another attempt. During the exchange, he is struck in the face, remarking that while his nasal bone is nearly broken, the pain is insignificant compared to a past experience with a toxin. He then counts down, presumably waiting for his skill's cooldown. Once the 10 seconds are up, he uses Swift Body Slash again, confident that at such close range, she cannot evade it. He momentarily believes he has landed a hit. However, Nai is unharmed and clarifies that she never intended to flee. She explains that her movements were restricted by a fear of exposing herself, and had that not been the case, her superior speed would have already allowed her to defeat him. She then launched an attack. As the fight continues, system notifications repeatedly informing Cirrus that Swift Body Slash is on cooldown. Frustrated by the length of the 10-second delay, he resolves to confront her directly. Tyre notes with surprise that Cirrus, previously assessed as F rank, is managing to block the boss's attacks head-on, a feat beyond the observer's B rank capabilities to intervene in. Cirrus then comments on the impressive attributes of his sword, claiming he can now easily counter and evade her attacks. The boss concedes that killing him is proving difficult. However, she then shifts her attention, declaring she can easily kill Bella with an injured foot, and attacks towards her. In response, Cirrus activates Swift Body Slash once more, but the boss taunts him for being too slow as the attack was already launched. The boss remarks on the predictable nature of humans trying to save others, a tendency she believes leads to heroes being killed from behind, and states he has been fooled again. Realizing he cannot reach Bella in time by running, Cirrus activates a system-locked ability and uses Swift Body Slash, and was able to save Cirrus. He expresses relief at having arrived just in time to protect Bella. Nai, on the other hand, curses, realizing he has managed to dodge her attack yet again. Nai suddenly remembers she has neglected to maintain the heat for the demon god's blood due to the battle. She worries that if the altar's temperature isn't sustained, her efforts will be wasted, and she will have to wait another 100 years. Simultaneously, Bella is shown looking distressed, feeling unusually hot, with an agitation value displayed at 91%, indicating that she was already feeling something for Cirrus, and now she was locked in as a target, so she had even more attraction for him. Bella leaned in close to Cirrus, gently holding his face like she was about to kiss him. Tyler, watching nearby, froze in disbelief. Right at that moment, just inches away from locking lips, Cirrus was hit with a memory from when Bella was a kid, and not a cute one. In the flashback, young Bella looked kind of terrifying. She glared at him, demanding to know what he was staring at. Had he never seen a beautiful woman before? Did he want to kiss that badly? Snapping back to the present, Cirrus quickly pulled away, looking tense and insisting he definitely didn't want to kiss her. Tyler chimed in, asking Bella what on earth she was doing. Was she really about to kiss Cirrus? Bella, now flustered, started panicking inside. Wait, did I really try to kiss him? She wondered if her body had just moved on its own. She even stuck out her tongue without realizing, and they were literally in the middle of a battle. Her face flushed bright red from embarrassment. Tyler, clearly annoyed, asked why she looked so overheated. Was she poisoned or just hallucinating? Surely that had to be it. There was no way she'd act like that otherwise. Meanwhile, Nai's attention was locked onto the altar. She knew that if the demon god's blood cooled down, it would take another 100 years to heat it back up. No way she was waiting that long again. So she began throwing the corpses of both monsters and humans into the flames, determined to burn the demon blood completely dry. Cirrus, overhearing her, tensed up. She's really going to burn it all? He knew he had to act fast, but Nai was way too fast. He could barely land a hit. His only option now, power up so much that even Nai couldn't dodge him. Back at the altar, Nai kept piling bodies into the fire like it was her personal barbecue pit, hoping to crank the heat to max. Meanwhile, Ceres had a crazy idea. He rushed over to Bella and told her he had a way to beat the boss, but he needed her help. When she asked what kind of help, he awkwardly replied that if they just, do some naughty stuff, his power would skyrocket. Both Bella and Tyler were shocked. Tyler couldn't believe Ceres said something so wild with such a serious face. Ceres took Bella's hand and sincerely asked for her help, even though he knew he was asking a lot. Bella, caught off guard and low-key blushing, didn't know how to respond. But before she could say anything, Tyler yanked Ceres' hand away, furious. He called BS right away, convinced Ceres was just using the situation as an excuse to be a perv. Who thinks about kissing in the middle of a life-or-death fight? He warned Bella not to fall for Ceres' nonsense, but to his shock, Bella turned to Ceres and said she trusted him. Tyler stood there, stunned. Bella gently placed her hands on Ceres' shoulder and admitted that, yeah, it was embarrassing for her too, but not to take it the wrong way. Bella only agreed to help because she wanted the monster boss, nay, taken down. Not because she actually wanted to do all those things with Ceres. While she's gently holding Ceres' face like she might kiss him, he suddenly flashes back to when they were kids. Little Bella had leaned in like she was going to kiss him, and her intense face and weird words totally freaked the shit out of him. Back then, he screamed that he didn't want to play anymore. He yells at Bella, "Don't do this to me again." And just like before, he shoves her away. Ceres stumbles back, breathless, saying it was a close call. Then his system pings. Apparently, Tyler took a critical hit because the situation was about to go NTR in front of him. Bella, meanwhile, is just standing there, totally confused about why he pushed her. Ceres gets another system alert. His level has gone up, and all his stats increased by 5,000 points. He's stunned, realizing this must be because of Tyler. And for once, he's relieved. Now he doesn't need to touch Bella again and relive that creepy childhood trauma. Trying to be considerate, Ceres tells Bella that if all of this is too hard for her, they should just forget it. He'll go defeat the boss on his own. Bella looks hurt and tells him to wait. She asks, what if he can't beat the boss? What if he really needs her help? But Ceres, being his usual dramatic self, tells her he doesn't want her help anyway. Then he sprints off toward Nay. Bella, stung by the rejection, quietly asks why, and starts wondering why Ceres doesn't seem to be interested in her at all. Tyler, ever the side character with feelings, interrupts and says he gets it. Ceres is stronger than him. That must be why Bella likes Ceres. But Bella don't gives a fuck about him. Meanwhile, Ceres is thinking hard. If he wants to activate his ultimate move, he has to hit both Nay's head and legs at the same time. Earlier, he almost got the legs. Now, with a huge plus 5,000 boost to all his stats, he's confident that if he waits for the right moment and uses swift body slash, he can totally pull it off. Back with Nay, she's confused about why the altar isn't activating and why the temperature is still so cold. If she doesn't fix it soon, things are going to freeze. Her brilliant idea? Use those filthy humans to create a little warmth. Cute, right? She zooms over to Ceres and tells him to feel honored. They're about to become firewood for her ultimate sacrifice. That's literally the nicest thing she can say. Then she starts charging up her full power for a massive attack. Ceres is shook. The power ball she's forming is huge. When she blasts it toward him, he tries to block it with his sword, but it's draining his magic like crazy. His MP keeps dropping, and it's getting dangerously close to 0. Somehow, he manages to deflect the attack. But now he's got just 11 magic points left. Literally 11, which means he can't use any magic power. He's panicking, totally powerless and unsure of what to do next. Nay grins, knowing his magic's almost gone. She thinks the battle is as good as over, but just when things seem hopeless, bam! Bella shows up and grabs Ceres' face. She tells him flat out that he clearly needs her help. Then, in a dramatic twist, she pulls his head into her chest, leaving poor Tyler absolutely heartbroken. Rip, buddy. She thinks Tyler was a good guy. However, from long ago, her heart already belonged to someone, Ceres, and that hasn't changed since they were kids. Back to Ceres after getting crushed his head, gets a massive power-up. His level jumps by 5, his body starts glowing, and he can feel energy bursting inside him. He gets another notification. All his stats just skyrocketed plus 70,500. Nai stares in disbelief. This wasn't supposed to happen. Sarah's should be done for. Yet somehow he's standing tall, stronger than ever. Sarah's was now glowing so brightly, it looked like he had unlocked some kind of divine power. Nai scoffed, saying that no matter how strong he got, he was still just a weak little human, and compared to monsters like her, he was nothing but an ant. But before she could finish her arrogant speech, Sarah's charged straight at her and unleashed his full power. Nay smirked, confident she could dodge like always, but this time she was wrong. Sarah slashed right through her, fast and clean. She didn't realize what had happened until her mask and robe were ripped open. Her eyes widened in shock. He even cut her face. Now that the opponent was completely naked, the sword can now do its special skill, Holy Sword Descent. Nay completely lost it, screaming about how dare he ruin her beautiful face. She gathered all of her energy into a deadly, glowing beam, the size of a massive orb, and hurled it at Sarah's. Sarah's struck her again, but this time with Holy Sword Descent, and a huge explosion shook the entire room. The blast was so strong it shattered the ground. Everything crumbled except the narrow piece Sarah's managed to stand on. Even Bella and Tyler were thrown back by the shockwave. As the smoke cleared, Sarah's saw Nay lying unconscious. It looked like he had finally won. His system showed that Holy Sword Descent was on a 10-second cooldown. Without wasting time, he dashed to the altar, but what he saw froze him in his tracks. The altar was still glowing. The ritual wasn't over. Suddenly, Nay's voice echoed in the room. She mocked him, asking if he really thought it was that easy. She'd never let filthy humans lay hands on the blood of the demon god. Cirrus checked. Only 5 seconds left on the cooldown. He shouted back at her, saying, "Then I'll finish this in 5 seconds." But just as he was about to strike, he turned and saw Bella. Her health was dangerously low. She was hanging by a thread. Nai stood up again, furious, saying she wouldn't back down as long as she was still breathing. She challenged Cirrus to face her again and see who was truly stronger, monsters or humans. Cirrus stood there, torn. Save Bella and Mark, or go for the final blow? He made his choice. He flew past Nay and straight to the entrance, yelling at the system map to open up and show him the fastest way out. He had to get Bella to a hospital, now, and Tyler too. Nay, confused and momentarily relieved, scoffed at his decision. "Humans really are fools," she muttered. As Sarah's reached the next room, monsters ambushed him. No time to rest. He readied his sword, prepared to fight his way through. Meanwhile, Bella was still unconscious, trapped in a dream from her painful childhood. She remembered how the other kids laughed at her, calling her ugly, asking who'd ever want to kiss her. She wanted to play house like everyone else, but the others teased her, saying she should be the gorilla mom instead. Then, in her memory, Cirrus appeared. While the other kids warned him to stay away, claiming he'd catch the ugly, he walked straight up and slapped one of them across the face. Total legend. Back in the present, Cirrus defeats the monsters around him using a clean, swift body slash. In Bella's dream, Cirrus leans down and tells little Bella, "The game's not over. I'll be the dad and you'll be the mom, because I'm the boy and you're the girl. I'll always be there for you," and kisses on her forehead. That promise echoes into the present. After defeating the monsters, Cirrus tells Bella she's going to be okay. Meanwhile, back in the boss room, Nay stares at the altar. The temperature is still falling. If she doesn't feed the fire, everything will collapse. With no other option left, Nay prepares to sacrifice herself. On the other side, Cirrus continues battling through monsters on his way out. Then, in the ritual chamber, Nay throws herself onto the altar, becoming the firewood needed to keep the ritual going. As her body begins to vanish, she cries out one last time to the demon god, saying she can no longer serve him in person. While she fades away, Cirrus faces a monstrous dragon in his path and raises his blade for one more fight. As soon as Cirrus defeated the dragon monster, his divine weapon, the exploding garment holy sword, vanished into thin air. His system flashed a notification. The enemy had been eliminated and the weapon had returned to the system's storage. It also mentioned that the sword wouldn't be available again for another hour. Cirrus didn't mind, though. They were almost at the dungeon's exit anyway. The scene then shifts outside the dungeon where Cyrus and some of his teammates are shown finally escaping. Everyone is filled with joy, thrilled to be alive after the nightmare underground. Cyrus, however, isn't exactly in a good mood. He's lost in thought, remembering how close he came to dying and how even his prized dragon scale armor was shattered. All because of that damned Cirrus. He assumed Cirrus had already been killed by the dungeon boss. But suddenly someone shouts, "Cirrus has returned!" And he's not alone. He's carrying Bella and Tyler with him. Cyrus freezes in disbelief as Cirrus approaches with a serious expression. Without warning, Cyrus yanks a sword from one of his teammates and demands to know how Cirrus dared to sneak behind their backs and try to escape. He accuses Cirrus of defying orders and says he no longer has the right to be part of the expedition team. As the team captain, Cyrus announces that he won't let the guild waste another drop of medical resources on Cirrus. And then he goes a step further, shouting that he'll end it right here. But before he can make a move, Cirrus rushes forward and kicks Cyrus straight in the face, using him as a literal stepping stone to leap past him. Without missing a beat, Cirrus says he doesn't have time to deal with this nonsense. Cyrus hits the ground unconscious, and the rest of the team completely loses it. They're shouting in shock, panicking, and asking how Cirrus could dare to attack the captain. One of them yells that Cyrus is actually out cold and needs to be rushed to the hospital. Next, we cut to the guild hospital. Medical staff are sprinting down the hall, shouting about an emergency case as Bella and Tyler are wheeled in on stretchers. Cirrus watches, finally breathing a sigh of relief. He made sure they got to safety. But he knows his job isn't done. There's still the matter of the demon god's blood, the only cure for his deadly poison. So without wasting a second, Cirrus turns around and heads straight back to the dungeon. Back at the altar, something terrifying is happening. A strange red substance is rising from the altar, bubbling and swirling as it starts to take the shape of a humanoid figure. Sadiel watches from a distance, tense and confused. She wonders what sort of entity Boss Nai unleashed with her final act of self-sacrifice. As the shape becomes clearer, a single hand emerges from the liquid, and with it, the air around them turns ice cold. Sadiel shivers violently, describing the feeling as if thousands of icy needles were stabbing into her bones. Then, the creature fully takes form. It looks almost human, with a feminine silhouette, long hair, but a boyish body. As he surveys the room, the figure murmurs that everything feels familiar, as if this place was his true domain. This was the arrival of demon god Azathoth. Sadiel, completely overwhelmed, tries to flee, but Azathoth senses her presence. He quickly walks to the wall and touches it with just one finger, and the entire wall collapses in an instant. Up above, monsters from the upper levels are thrown into chaos, wondering what just caused the dungeon floor to explode. As the dust settles, one monster shouts for the others to look up. They can now see the sky through the broken ceiling. They start speculating that Boss Nai might have caused it, but quickly realize it couldn't be her. The power needed to destroy the dungeon like this had to be far beyond what Nai was ever capable of. Then, a chilling voice answers their questions. Azathoth reveals himself and casually declares that Nai is dead. He adds that he now needs a new servant. His words send a wave of panic through the monsters. They don't know whether to kneel or run for their lives. Azathoth stood tall while monsters gathered around him, one even daring to step forward and brag that their clan had survived through sheer strength. That monster claimed they'd happily follow someone stronger than their current boss, Nai. Hearing that, the rest of the monsters jumped in, yelling that they wanted to serve Azathoth too. But Azathoth was not having it. He snapped, shouting that they were all way too ugly for his taste, and without hesitation blasted them to pieces. "I don't want ugly minions," he declared, turning his back on the mess he made. Then he walked up to Sadiel with a smirk and told her how pretty she was. Azathoth gently told her to look up and open her mouth. Sadiel, eyes full of tears, obeyed. Without warning, Azathoth let his blood flow right into Sadiel's mouth. Yep, blood, and told her to drink it. Sadiel felt something change the moment it hit her tongue. A warm, tingling wave swept through her body like everything inside was healing and getting stronger. Azathoth leaned in and explained, oh so casually, that his blood had crazy powers. It could repair wounds, boost the immune system, make her stronger, and yeah, during digestion, it might even make Sadiel feel good, like really good. As the sun started to set, Azathoth told Sadiel to find a clean room for him and wait for him there. Sadiel, still processing what just happened, just nodded quietly and left. Meanwhile, over at the Hero Guild's HQ, things were heating up. Darren was gripping Cyrus by the head, fuming with rage. He demanded to know what went wrong with the mission. Cyrus tried to explain. If he lost his position as captain, Darren would be next in line and would have to deal with auditing the team's shady activities. He begged Darren to come up with a solution before everything fell apart. And oh boy, things were very shady. Turns out they'd been selling off the guild's resources in secret, and if anyone found out, they were toast. Darren, not in the mood for excuses, shoved Cyrus back and snapped, "I know that already." Then he asked if someone had disobeyed orders. Cyrus confirmed, yes, someone had. A guy named Ceres. Darren checked the files. Ceres? Just an F-rank nobody. Perfect scapegoat. He told Cyrus to blame everything on Ceres and ordered his execution for desertion. Cut to the dungeon. Ceres stood among the ruins, stunned by the destruction. He ran to the altar, hoping the antidote was still there, but nope, it was gone. He panicked, unsure what to do next. Back with Sadiel, she sat quietly, waiting for Azathoth. Suddenly, Azathoth came up behind her and gently placed his hands on Sadiel's shoulders. Sadiel flinched, whispering for him not to do that, but Azathoth ignored her and hugged her from behind. Sadiel froze. Something soft pressed against her back. Wait a minute, wasn't Azathoth a boy? Sadiel's mind raced, completely thrown off by the sensation. Sadiel immediately stepped out of the hug, blushing like crazy. She turned around and was stunned. Azathoth's appearance had changed. She looked fully like a girl now. Don't like hugs? Azathoth asked playfully. Sadiel blinked in confusion and asked how he changed so fast. Azathoth shrugged and said it was no big deal. At night, he loses all his strength and returns to his true form, a girl. That's also when he's at his weakest, so he needs Sadiel to protect her. If anyone tries to hurt Azathoth, or if Sadiel even thinks of running away, Azathoth can use their shared blood connection to make Sadiel's body melt on the spot. Yeah. Yikes. So naturally, Sadiel decided she'd better listen. And I wanted to tell you all that I'll be calling Azathoth by she and her. Meanwhile, Ceres was still searching the dungeon like a madman, desperate to find the demon god's blood. No luck. He asked the system to open the map, hoping to scour every last corner. Elsewhere, Azathoth confided in Sadiel again. She admitted she didn't want things to turn out like this, but her heart was sealed away in the Hero Guild's HQ. Because of that, she couldn't fully transform into her powerful form. Every night she became human and weak. But once they got her heart back, oh boy. Once that happened, all the monsters in the world, day or night, would bow to her again. Right then, Sadiel heard footsteps nearby and got up to check it out. But Azathoth stopped her and gave one final instruction. Stay within 5 kilometers of me during any battle. No exceptions. Athoth warns that if Sadiel exceeds this range, she will consider it an attempt to escape and again threaten to dissolve her body. Sadiel responds with a yes and leaves to check. On the other side of the dungeon, Ceres got a notification from his system. Jackpot! The blood of the demon god was hidden deep within Nay's underground dungeon. A smug grin spread across his face. He sprinted straight for the only room he hadn't checked yet, the one where Azathoth and Sadiel were staying. But just as he was about to reach it, Sadiel was already waiting by the door, ready to ambush. The moment Ceres got close, she launched a kick at him. He dodged it effortlessly. Sadiel froze mid-swing. Wait a minute. Wasn't this the same guy she met earlier that morning? The disgusting human Heinmoth. Meanwhile, inside the room, Azathoth's body suddenly twitched. She blinked in confusion. That strange feeling, like her powers stirring, it only happened when she was close to her heart. Back at the door, Sadiel demanded to know why Ceres had come back when Nay was already dead. She urged him to leave before daylight. But Ceres was too busy gawking. He was stunned to see that Sadiel had recovered enough to fight already. Then, with a cheeky grin, he asked her if she liked the mushroom-flavored treat he gave her earlier. Her reaction? Instant blush, then disgust. "That was the worst mushroom I've ever eaten in my life," she snapped, flustered. "Get lost!" But Ceres peeked at his system stats and smirked. Her favorability rating was at 69%. Nice. He teased her, pointing out that she was totally blushing. Before he could finish flirting, Sadiel kicked at him again. "Don't talk nonsense. I don't like you, okay?" And oof. Her foot didn't miss this time and smacked Seer's face. She cursed herself, yelling that her feelings for humans were gross anyway. But then, just as she was about to stomp on him again, he vanished from under her foot. She spun around. He was already dashing toward the room. How did he escape after I literally stepped on his face? She thought, fuming. Sears yelled back over his shoulder, "We can play later. I've got urgent business right now." As he neared the door, his system pinged again. The blood of the demon god was definitely behind it. Just as he reached out to open it, the door swung open on its own, and standing there was Azathoth, in her human girl form. Cirrus skidded to a stop, accidentally planting his hand right on her chest. For a second, they both froze. Then his eyes widened in horror, and he jerked his hand away, stammering. Sadiel blinked. "Why did you come out here, Azathoth-sama?" Azathoth, however, wasn't focused on that. She just felt something very weird. Azathoth then grabbed Sears's bowls. That's where her heart was. But why was her heart inside him? Azathoth stared, stunned. Somehow, it had ended up inside this filthy human. Sirius panicked, pushed her away, and asked what the hell was going on. Then his system dropped the bomb. This girl was the demon god's blood. His antidote. Sirius was shocked. His antidote turned into a person? Acting on instinct, he grabbed Azathoth's hand and made a small cut, quickly drinking her blood. Maybe, just maybe, it could still work. Azathoth flinched, her body twitching again. Sirius gulped the blood down, but his system wasn't impressed. His poison wasn't cured. His lifespan was now limited to 100 days. He stared at Azathoth. Why didn't it work? Azathoth just gave him a knowing smile. "I'm human now, silly. My blood isn't magical in this form." Before they could bicker further, Sadiel stormed in and kicked at Ceres' hand. Let go of her, but Ceres dodged easily, stepping back like this was all just light exercise. Azathoth, meanwhile, was reeling. Her heart, her essence, was absorbed by this human, stored in the deepest part of his body. If she wanted it back, she'd have to pull it out. Forcefully. The process would literally dissolve his body into a puddle of blood. That would be his punishment for stealing her power. Ceres, however, wasn't done thinking dangerous thoughts. If her blood didn't work, maybe other liquids from her body might contain the antidote. And don't even ask what he meant by that. He decided he'd take her with him first, then do a little more research. But just as he moved in, ready to grab her, something unexpected began to rise from underground. It was a boss-level beast named Ghana. She laughed excitedly as she came out from the ground and told Azathoth that even from miles away, she had sensed her presence, and the feeling had sent shivers down her spine. Ghana proudly mentioned that she never took off the bell Azathoth gave her, proof of her deep, undying love. Then, completely unbothered, she asked if she could devour Azathoth now, because once that happened, Azathoth would be all hers. Sadiel was left in shock, while Azathoth grew visibly tense. But before things got even weirder, Ceres suddenly scooped Azathoth into his arms and bolted away from a hole in the wall, leaping through it like it was just another Tuesday. While mid-jump, he wondered how a boss-tier monster could have just popped up in the dungeon like that. His first instinct, get Azathoth somewhere safe, fast. Of course, Ghana wasn't giving up that easily. She dove through the hole right after them, shouting at Ceres to give her Pookie Azathoth back and quit running. Cut to a few seconds later, they were now at the Heroes Guild, Zone Z, Sears' home, which Sears figured was the safest place for now. He let out a breath of relief, thinking he had finally shaken Ghana off their trail. Sears was on top of Azathoth. As he stood up, Azathoth smiled secretly. If this was truly the guild, then her plans just got a whole lot easier. Once she got her powers back, she was ready to go on a rampage and make everyone pay for what they did to her heart. Suddenly, she stood up, cupped Ceres' face in her hands, and with the saddest, most helpless expression ever, told him she was cursed by a terrifying monster, and if she didn't find a human to mate with soon, she'd die. So please, save her. Ceres blinked with a nosebleed. He declared that he was a noble hero, the kind who'd never take advantage of someone in need. But before he could finish his honorable speech, Azathoth leapt onto him, still acting like she was in terrible pain. She begged him again to save her. Ceres froze. His thoughts were all over the place. His inner voice screamed that he must never, ever exploit someone's vulnerability. It would crush his righteous soul. But then another part of him whispered that as a hero, he couldn't just stand by while someone suffered. He had to do something. He finally reached out to Azathoth, thinking he would sacrifice himself, bear the pain, and save her. But just as she leaned in for a kiss, she got really close, and Sarah's noticed something. Between her legs, he blinked. "Is that a tail?" he asked, confused. But wait, tails are supposed to be on the back. This one was very much on the front. And that was not a tail. His eyes went wide. His heart stopped. He shoved Azathoth back in pure panic, stumbling backwards so hard that his little pet, Yug, fell right out of his pocket. With a trembling voice, he asked why she had a sword between her legs. Azathoth leaned in again, all sultry and seductive, reminding him that he already agreed to save her. But time was ticking. Daybreak was coming. And with the sunrise came a shift. Azathoth's body began to change. That is the main reason he has a pole instead of a hole. She touched his leg again, leaned in once more, and whispered that he couldn't back out now. Sirius was sweating bullets, not knowing what to do. But thank the gods, something unexpected happened. His little pet Yug began to glow. Azathoth stared, confused. What's going on? In just seconds, Yug fully transformed back into her true monster form. Her stomach growled as she groaned that she was starving. "Master!" she whined to Sirius. "I'm so hungry." That was Sirius's golden ticket. He turned to Azathoth and said, "Sorry, but I think Yug needs me more right now. You'll be next, I promise." Azathoth had no idea what to say. Her whole plan was crumbling. Meanwhile, Yug was wondering why Sirius's pocket was so tiny. She couldn't even stretch in there. Sirius dashed off to the kitchen, yelling over his shoulder, "Hang on, Yug, I'll make you something yummy right away." And just like that, chaos turned into a cooking session. While cooking, Sirius found a bit of peace, just enough time to think. But that peace didn't last long. His thoughts spiraled. If he didn't help Azathoth soon, she might actually die. But how was he supposed to save her? Did he really have to, do it with her? The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he got. He just couldn't decide what to do. Meanwhile, Azathoth quietly crept up behind him, figuring she could wait until morning to get her powers back. Ceres noticed her coming, but played dumb, acting like he didn't see her. Azathoth instantly caught on. He was trying to avoid her. If Ceres wasn't going to willingly help, she figured she'd just have to force him into, weird territory. She suddenly reached out to grab that part of him, but before she could touch anything else, Ceres took the pan, yelling he's done cooking, and dashed outside like his life depended on it. He called out that dinner was ready. Azathoth fumed behind him, cursing her current human body for being too weak to catch him. Outside the kitchen, Ceres spotted Yug's tail sticking out from the bathroom door and decided to check it out. When he peeked inside, he was horrified. Yug was happily drinking toilet cleaner. He stared at her, stunned, wondering if she'd survive it. But she just smiled sweetly and said, "It's delicious." Moments later, Yug was munching happily on the Ceres made, but peace was short-lived. Azathoth stomped back into the scene, demanding that since Yug had already eaten, now it was her turn. Ceres tried to reason with her, telling her to just listen for a second, but nope, she was having none of it. Azathoth snapped, yelling that she didn't want to hear any more excuses. She wanted to do it right now. At that exact moment, because life clearly wasn't hard enough, Ceres's system popped up with a mission reminder. The time limit for returning weapons has come. Before he could react, his clothes disappeared, leaving him nearly naked, with just one tiny piece of cloth barely hanging on. And it got worse. His system gave him a new mission: run through the streets and wave to 33 people. After that, he'll get his clothes back. Ceres exploded in frustration, shouting that he would never do something so humiliating. But the system wasn't playing around. It warned him that if he refused, he'd be sent back to advanced paradise, in reverse. Then, a mysterious door appeared behind him and began to creak open. Ceres trembling, waiting to see what nightmare lay beyond. When the door fully opened, he screamed. Inside were a bunch of creepy boy mannequins, all inviting him to come play. He looked at the door, then at the street, and suddenly, running outside naked didn't sound so bad after all. Desperate, he tried to figure out how to cover himself. The cloth wasn't long enough to wrap around his waist, and no matter how he folded or held it, something would be hanging out. With both hands gripping front and back, he realized there was no way to wave at people. His dignity was doomed. Sears cracked. Tears welled up as he stood there, exposed, defeated. In a last-ditch move, he bolted toward the door, yelling to Yug to keep an eye on Azathoth. He promised he'd be back in a few minutes. Yug watched, wide-eyed, as Ceres ran off half-naked. Is this how humans usually go outside? She wondered, genuinely curious. Azathoth just sat there, defeated and disappointed, realizing she'd have to wait until morning after all. Trying to lift the mood, Yug cheerfully offered her some of the delicious toilet cleaner she'd been sipping earlier. Azathoth didn't even blink, just gave her a firm, soul-dead no. Outside, Ceres covered his face with the leftover cloth, because somehow not being recognized was more important than being clothed. He sprinted toward the nearest crowded spot, the barbecue plaza. Tons of people would be there, but he had no choice. And as if the universe hadn't bullied him enough already, Ghana, the boss monster, sensed his presence just as he arrived and was coming straight for him. Ceres finally reached the plaza and started frantically waving his hands to get people's attention, because nothing screams, "I'm on a mission," like waving in your underwear. A girl spotted him first and immediately screamed, "Pervert!" Within seconds, people started pouring out to see what the fuss was about. Despite the chaos and rising panic, Ceres somehow managed to get through part of his task, one awkward wave at a time. He was down to the final steps of his mission with just seconds on the clock, but now he had a new problem, an angry man chasing him for, indecent exposure. And of course, he was headed straight for a more crowded area. Meanwhile, back at Ceres' home, Sadiel popped up at the window like a surprise guest. Yug froze, eyes wide. She wasn't expecting visitors. Sadiel sighed in relief when she saw Azathoth and quickly warned them. This was the city of the Brave Heroes Guild. If anyone discovered them, they'd be in serious trouble. She urged them to leave immediately. Azathoth, cool as ever, replied that since morning was almost here, there was no point in hiding anymore. She ordered Sadiel to go find Ceres. Her instructions were simple. Once the sun rose, Sadiel should let her blood touch the ground. That way, Azathoth could track her down herself. Sadiel nodded and dashed off, but while running, she couldn't help but wonder. Once Azathoth reclaimed her essence, what would happen to Ceres? Would he turn to blood? That thought made her uneasy. Suddenly, she heard the city erupt in shouts. Curious, she looked down and almost dropped dead from shock. There was Ceres, still naked, still running, and still waving at people while a man chased him down. Ceres kept at it, unfazed, waving at strangers like it was a parade. The people chasing him were baffled. Was this guy seriously greeting people while being hunted? His system dinged. Mission Part 2 and 3, complete. Just a few more people left. Ceres lit up like it was Christmas. But then chaos dropped in, literally. A massive spider monster suddenly appeared and attacked the crowd chasing him. Ceres stopped in his tracks, turning back to see the disaster unfold. People screamed and scattered, yelling for backup. Ceres, still confused, wondered how a monster could show up at this exact moment. He tried to access his system, but it coldly informed him, nope. During the return mission, you're stuck at rank F, no weapons. Good luck. Ceres was horrified. No system support, no gear, and a boss-level spider crashing the party? Meanwhile, an emergency alert blared through the city, warning everyone to evacuate. In the chaos, a guy named Sam had grabbed one of the spider's legs and was yelling for someone to toss him a weapon. Out of nowhere, Ceres casually strolled up and, get this, he tells him, "Nice job." Sam's brain exploded. "Are you insane? Why are you greeting me right now? And where are your pants?" And Ceres even ran away after that. Thanks to Ceres' perfectly timed distraction, Sam lost his grip and the spider lunged. Luckily, an A-rank hero named Kajak dropped in like a superhero and sliced the spider down, saving Sam in the nick of time. Charlton, the vice president of the Heroes Guild, was there too and clapped for Kajak's quick action. Charlton reminded everyone that he needed to be safely escorted back ASAP. Kajak just waved him off, bragging that no monster could ever get close with their elite security. Whelp enters Ghana. Drawn by Ceres' energy, Ghana arrived like a living nightmare. Everyone froze. Kajak immediately jumped in front to defend Charlton, slashing at Ghana with his sword, but she dodged easily. Then she calmly reached out, touched his hand, and purred. "Is this all you wanted from getting close to me?" Kajak's hand instantly started melting. His whole body caught fire from her poison. He screamed, begging the others not to touch her. Ghana just laughed. Humans are so fragile, she mocked, and this is only a tiny bit of poison. Another hero stepped up and told the team to get Charlton out. He'd hold Ghana back. Oh? Ghana grinned. You want to hold me? You guys really don't learn, do you? Other side, Sears was just one person away from completing his mission when another hero tried to block Ghana, but ended up just like Kajak, burned, poisoned, and crying out in agony. Ghana listened to his screams with twisted delight. I'm not done yet. I haven't heard enough screaming. She started walking slowly toward Charlton, who was shaking and yelling for help. Just then, Sears appeared, panting, and shouted at Ghana to back off. He turned to Charlton and said, "Look at me." Charlton, confused but desperate, looked. Ding. Mission complete. And with that, Sears's clothes magically reappeared. Thank the system gods. Sears asked the system to activate, and it responded by showing him a choice of cards. He picked one, and boom, a new weapon appeared. The Silent Divine Finger. Sounds weird, and it gets weirder. This mysterious weapon had a unique ability. Whenever Sears touched something nearby, like the ground or a wall, it would link him to his enemy's body. Not only could he feel what they felt, but if they let out a real, deep scream, the weapon would activate a powerful silent force and strike them with pain. Creepy and brilliant weapon at the same time. As Ghana spotted Ceres and lit up with excitement, she immediately recognized him as the human who took her beloved master, Azathoth. She ran up, demanding to know where Ceres had hidden Azathoth. Ceres calmly said he'd hand him over. Ghana, clearly not trusting him, replied that she'd just kill Ceres first and then find Azathoth on her own. Ceres locked onto her as his target. When Ghana attacked, he quickly dodged and brushed his hand across the ground. At that very moment, Ghana felt something strange, like someone had just touched her. She was so thrown off that she blushed and screamed. That scream? It hit 15% on the scream meter, triggering the silent force. A wave of pain struck her hard, leaving her dazed. Covering her chest, she blurted out in shock, "Did he really just touch me there?" She realized it was Ceres's bizarre power. It wasn't deadly, but it definitely hurt. Furious and embarrassed, Ghana declared that her body and soul belonged only to Lord Azathoth, and anyone else who touched her would pay with their life. She swore she'd never make that humiliating sound again. Now super pissed, Ghana gathered all the toxins from her body into her palm like she was about to throw hands for real. She told Ceres that she'd burn his body and offer it as an apology gift to Azathoth. As she lunged forward, full of rage, Ceres braced himself. She went in for another strike, but Ceres managed to dodge just in time. While slipping away, he sneakily rubbed his hand against the ground again. And just like before, zap! Ghana screamed once more, this time from a sudden, intense, ticklish sensation in her armpit. Her scream meter shot up to 53%, and the silent force slammed into her again. Ceres, totally confused, was like, "Wait, did I just graze her armpit or something?" Meanwhile, Ghana was in agony. The pain was way worse than before. She couldn't believe she had screamed again after she swore she wouldn't. And the worst part? The touch kind of tickled. For a split second, it actually made her happy. That scared her more than the pain. Realizing Ceres could affect her the same way Azathoth once did, Ghana clutched the bell Azathoth had given her and whispered an apology, not understanding what was happening to her. She couldn't believe a mere human like Ceres was making her feel this way. It disgusted her. Humans weren't supposed to be anything like the noble and divine Azathoth. Trying to snap herself out of it, she literally smacked herself across the face. Once she regained her cool, she smiled creepily and asked if Azathoth would forgive her now. Ceres, watching all this, was both disturbed and confused. Okay, this lady might actually be crazy, he thought. Still, Ghana turned to him and admitted that his powers were seriously weird. Then she pulled out a sword and said she was done playing around. Ceres raised an eyebrow, not because of the sword, but because he was wondering, wait, where the heck was she hiding that thing? First it was her chest, then her arm slammed into a wall. Honestly, this battle was getting more unpredictable by the second. Ceres did some quick thinking. Based on Ghana's movement pattern and the distance between them, he figured her next move would probably come from behind. So, without warning, he turned and bolted. Ghana, not missing a beat, shouted after him, "Why are you running now? It's already too late." She lunged at him mid-sentence, trying to land a hit, but Sarah's dodged her like a pro. He yelled back, "My agility's way higher than yours. You're not catching me off guard." Ghana just smirked and said she knew. Then, without warning, she flung a sticky spider web at him. Ceres got caught mid-run, struggling as the web tangled him up. Ghana declared with full confidence, "You're stuck now. Time to die." As she charged in for the finishing blow, Ceres managed to slip one hand free and slapped it against the ground. Instantly, a sensation rushed through him. It felt like he had just touched the inside of her thigh. That bizarre feedback confirmed he was right again. Ghana froze, caught between curiosity and tension. She slapped her hand over her mouth, absolutely refusing to scream this time. Ceres tried to tease more reactions out of her, but she held strong. Her scream meter? Just 1%. The silent force didn't even activate. She was proud of herself. As long as she didn't make a sound, his weird skill couldn't hurt her. But then she looked around, and Ceres had vanished from the web. Before she could react, his voice came from behind. "Did I ever say I was going to run away?" She spun around, surprised, only for Ceres to find her grinning. To her, staying meant he'd made a dumb choice. With a dramatic reveal, she removed her hand. Her mouth was completely sealed shut with spiderweb. Her new plan? If she couldn't scream, then Ceres' attacks would be useless. Smart girl. Ceres, still cheeky, asked, "That last spot? That was your inner thigh, wasn't it?" Ghana turned red, flustered and furious at the idea that he was memorizing her body like a map. Ceres took her silence as confirmation. He explained that once he locked onto her, he began targeting her body based on her own proportions. Then, he said, with all the confidence in the world, "Now comes the real fight. I'm going to push you until you crack, and I'll find every weak spot that drives you wild." But Ghana believed she was prepared. She thought, no matter where he touches, I won't make a sound. Ceres rubbed his hands along the walls. Ghana braced herself. Nothing happened. She didn't flinch, didn't scream. Even Ceres was a little shocked. But deep inside, Ghana was tense. This time, it didn't feel like a simple physical touch. It felt emotional, like something was reaching inside her heart. Yet she still held firm. Her loyalty to Lord Azathoth wouldn't be shaken. Not by this. She told herself that no matter what, this strange feeling couldn't compare to the divine ecstasy Azathoth once gave her. Ceres wasn't giving up, though. He rubbed his hands together again, then ran them over the wall. "Come on," he yelled. "Enjoy this." Ghana began to tremble. The sensation didn't just tingle, it flooded her mind. She couldn't understand why it felt so intense, why it went straight to her head, why it made her feel like this. Meanwhile, off to the side, Charlton was watching everything unfold. He blinked in awe as the female monster began squirming again. What kind of move is that? He wondered. How do I learn that kind of trick? Back on the battlefield, Ghana was overwhelmed. The feeling inside her grew stronger than anything she'd experienced. Even Lord Azathoth's image was starting to blur in her eyes. That terrified her. She clenched her fists, knowing she had to stop it. She couldn't let this human, this lowly mortal, take away her devotion. Ghana knew she had to end this now, before it was too late. She couldn't allow these thoughts to take over. Her heart belonged to Lord Azathoth, and she had to stay focused. No more distractions. Meanwhile, Ceres was genuinely surprised. Even after everything, Ghana still hadn't screamed. Apparently, the sensation wasn't enough yet. Gritting her teeth, Ghana channeled all the toxins in her body into her sword. With fierce determination, she charged at Ceres. She wasn't going down without a fight. Seeing her rush in, Ceres calmly stepped toward the wall, rubbing his hands together with a smirk. "Come on, appreciate the skill," he teased. The moment he touched the wall, Ghana trembled violently. Her body twitched, wriggling as the overwhelming sensation swept through her again. She couldn't even move, completely paralyzed by the intensity. If I don't finish this now, she thought, Lord Azathoth might vanish from my heart. With that thought, she hurled her sword at Ceres, but of course he dodged. She wasn't surprised. She had already planned for that. Just as the sword passed him, she released its hidden toxins. In such a tight space, she was sure he couldn't dodge that. As the fog of toxins cleared, Ghana felt victorious. There was no way Ceres had escaped from such close range. His body had to be completely poisoned. It was over. Or, so she thought. Suddenly, his voice echoed from above. "Nice try," Ceres said. But I'm not falling for the same trick twice. Deceive and strike? I've learned that one. Ghana's eyes shot up, and there he was on the rooftop. How the hell did he get up there? Ceres jumped down into the narrow space, sliding his hands along the walls all the way to the ground. As he descended, the sensation Ghana felt spiked, way stronger than before. She tried to brace herself. It'll pass in a few seconds, she told herself. Just like before, but seconds ticked by and the feeling didn't stop. The taller walls meant the descent took longer. The sensation didn't just spike, it lingered, grinding against her nerves. Ghana started to panic. Why isn't it ending? It was fast last time. Why not now? She clenched her fists, trembling, desperately hoping it would stop. Her strength was reaching its limit. Just before she broke, she whispered a final apology to Lord Azathoth. And then she screamed with everything she had. Ceres' system lit up. Scream value, 100%. The bell Ghana had worn, Azathoth's precious gift, shattered with a crackling boom. A blast erupted around her, shaking the entire area. As the energy wave faded, so did her magic. Bit by bit, it drained away until her magic stat dropped to 0. Her form shrank, and she transformed into a tiny spider. Ceres' system announced, enemy defeated, weapon retrieved. He calmly walked over and scooped her up in his hand. A new message appeared. Favorability, Ghana 100% passive conquest unlocked. The reward, Ceres gained the boss's exclusive skill, Toxic Fusion, a deadly ability allowing him to infuse potent poisons into weapons. Holding the mini spider in his hand, Ceres smirked. I wonder, can I also fuse my own poisons into weapons? The story shifted to Sadiel, who stood silently as she began a summoning ritual using her own blood. The drops hit the ground, and suddenly Azathoth vanished from the room. Yug, watching nearby, was stunned. The blood had worked. Moments later, Azathoth reappeared, now in his human form. From here on, we'll just refer to him as a man. Azathoth's first words were sharp and focused. Where's Ceres? Sadiel tensed up, her head low as she admitted with guilt. I lost him. Azathoth froze. You what? He revealed something chilling. The human body he currently occupied was created from his heart. If he didn't recover it soon, he'd revert to a powerless human once night fell. Even with that pressure, Sadiel repeated, I'm sorry. I lost him. Azathoth suddenly turned his head, picking up on strange sounds from the city. He sensed it. The system's power was at work. Without another word, he flew off in that direction. Sadiel could only watch, tense and helpless. Meanwhile, Ceres' system popped up with a notification. New skill unlocked, placement. This new power allowed him to teleport defeated monsters back to their origin point. Testing it out, Ceres whispered, placement. Instantly, Ghana vanished from his hand. At home, in Yug's room, Ghana got teleported from the ceiling and bonked her right on the head. Startled, Yug looked up and blinked in confusion. What the? Spider? Back with Ceres, things escalated fast. Azathoth appeared out of nowhere and grabbed him, locking Ceres' head under his arm before he could react. I can't believe you ran off after promising to save me, Azathoth said, clearly disappointed and irritated. Now seeing him in full human form, Ceres realized the truth. Azathoth was a man, and he was also the one who tricked him about the curse. You really fooled me, Ceres muttered. Azathoth didn't deny it. Instead, he simply asked Ceres to keep his promise. Ceres, glaring, shot back, I'm not into guys. Azathoth paused, then said, Oh, how about now? He snapped his fingers and, right in front of Ceres' eyes, transformed into a girl with cat ears and a cutesy cat-themed dress. Meow, he purred playfully. Interested now? Ceres immediately turned away, horrified. No, I still don't like men, no matter what you turn into. He tried to punch him out of frustration, but Azathoth caught his fist effortlessly, twisting it just enough to make Ceres wince. Humans sure do love cat ears and stockings, Azathoth teased. We could have some real fun. Ceres shoved him away, clearly not on board. But Azathoth wasn't giving up so easily. He leaned in and licked Ceres' finger. Ceres froze in complete shock. Are you serious right now? Stop licking me! You taste like you belong to me, Azathoth whispered, way too satisfied. Ceres tried to bolt, but Azathoth stopped him effortlessly, using his powers to freeze him in place. Floating into the air, Azathoth looked down smugly. I've long surpassed the system. Run all you want. It'll always end the same. He then asked, So, are you going to use the system against me? Boost your speed? Try to trap me? Ceres gritted his teeth. I'm not going to use a system skill on a man. That's my bottom line. With a dark smile, Azathoth lifted Cirrus into the air. You don't understand. The blood in your body is my antidote. You've always belonged to me. Cirrus's eyes widened, but Azathoth leaned closer. If you just behave, I'll heal you. That was the final straw. Cirrus pushed back with rage. If getting that antidote means going through you, I'd rather rot. I'll melt down to nothing before I ever do anything like that. Azathoth's smile vanished. You're stubborn, he growled. Then I'll just have to show you what happens to those who disobey. With his power rising, he prepared to unleash something darker, his voice full of warning. If you won't beg me willingly, I'll make you. Azathoth raised his hand and struck Cirrus's back, aiming to force the system and Cirrus's heart back into his original body. But to his shock, nothing happened. In fact, his magic vanished into thin air. What? Azathoth muttered, stunned. Why didn't it work? Right then, Cirrus's system chimed in with a blunt announcement. It had refused to return to Azathoth. From now on, all of Azathoth's attacks would be completely useless against Cirrus. And then, another prompt popped up for Cirrus. Would you like to sacrifice 50% of your lifespan for a chance to defeat Azathoth? Cirrus stared at the screen, eyes twitching. System, are you dumb? He growled. Of course I want to. The system explained that once Cirrus locked onto Azathoth, it would trigger the Spear of Oblivion. If successful, Azathoth would be fully absorbed and Cirrus's body would be completely purified of all poisons. The catch? His remaining lifespan was now reduced to 50 days. Azathoth, still in disbelief, couldn't believe the system had turned its back on him. It was a complete betrayal. Meanwhile, Cirrus noticed something important. If Azathoth was within 20 meters, he could lock onto him instantly. But before he could act, a thick red smoke exploded around him. He squinted and coughed, realizing his visibility had dropped to 0. This fog, is this Azathoth's doing? Cirrus thought, covering his eyes. It was so dense he could barely breathe. Azathoth quickly sliced his own hand, and instantly a wound appeared on Sadiel's palm too. Her eyes widened as pain shot through her. She had no idea what was happening. As her blood drops on the ground, within seconds, Azathoth teleports to her side. He was drenched in sweat, tense, and clearly on edge. He had escaped, barely. Sadiel, seeing his state, was rattled. What just happened to you? Azathoth clenched his jaw, seething. The system, it rejected me. Again. He realized the system had likely locked onto his location. And sure enough, on Cirrus's end, the system confirmed Azathoth's position. But Ceres was baffled by how far Azathoth had moved in such a short time. Sadiel glanced at Azathoth's trembling form. Are you sweating because you were injured? Azathoth scoffed. No one in this city can harm me, but since you drank my blood, our bodies are linked. If I get hurt, you'll take the damage first. Sadiel tensed, absorbing the weight of that bond. Still, she asked, did you manage to take down Ceres? Azathoth shook his head. No, none of my attacks work on him anymore. Sadiel's face twitched. Seriously, then maybe we should just go back to the dungeon. But Azathoth waved her off. No way. I've been with the system for thousands of years. I know its every move. Sure, my attacks won't work, but pleasure? That doesn't count as an attack. He grinned darkly. I can break him using pleasure alone. He went on to explain that the system rarely found a compatible host, and once Ceres died, the system would be forced to come back to him. When he returned to human form, the system wouldn't even be able to track him anymore. He turned to Sadiel. At night, go find Ceres again, and tell me, have you learned transformation magic yet? Sadiel nodded. Yes. Good, he said, smirking. Use it on me. As she cast the spell, Azathoth calmly added, I lose all my magic at night, so I'll need you to keep my form stable. Once transformed, Azathoth took the shape of a beautiful girl once again, and he was quite pleased with the result. Not bad, he mused. With this look, Ceres won't recognize me. Humans love playing the hero, after all. Let him think he's saving a helpless girl, then I'll make my move. Sadiel raised an eyebrow. Wait, can you really defeat Ceres just by pleasuring him? Azathoth smiled with a distant, bitter edge. How do you think I died? He had once been defeated the same way by a woman who brought him too much pleasure. And even now, the memory of the system abandoning him still haunted him. His voice cracked as he screamed into the air, Why? Why did you reject me? He just couldn't understand what was so special about Ceres. Meanwhile, Ceres had way bigger problems on his mind. He only had a few days left to live. If he could find Azathoth within that time, there was still a chance to cure himself. But the clock was ticking and every second mattered. As if on cue, a sharp pain shot through Ceres' chest. The poison in his body was acting up again, this time burning its way down to his little toe. He collapsed to the ground, screaming in agony before slipping into unconsciousness. Charlton, who had witnessed the scene, rushed over in panic. The story jumped forward. Ceres slowly opened his eyes to find himself in a hospital bed. A surprised ward boy noticed him waking and immediately called out to his assistant to inform Mr. Charlton. Ceres, still groggy, asked who brought him there. The boy explained it was none other than Mr. Charlton, the vice president of the guild. That answer caught Ceres off guard. Moments later, Charlton walked in. He asked Ceres if he remembered saving him, the fat guy who'd been surrounded by a monstrous spider. Ceres recognized the face and nodded. He then asked how long he had been unconscious. Charlton replied it had been several hours. That shocked Ceres. His body felt completely drained from the endless battles. Charlton apologized for rushing things and hoped he hadn't made things worse. Ceres, sensing his sincerity, asked if there was something he needed. Charlton admitted he'd seen Ceres' fight with the spider monster and was blown away by the display of magic. He went on to say that as people age, they lose interest in things, but seeing Ceres reignited a spark in him. If he could just learn Ceres' skills, he felt like he could finally escape the emotional weight he'd carried for years. Ceres was confused. Charlton clarified. He wanted to be his disciple. The vice president of the guild wanted to call him Master. Ceres was shocked, but quickly thought it might be useful. If he agreed, he could gain access to the guild's resources to track down Azathoth. But there was a catch. Ceres' magic wasn't something he could easily teach. It was a system-based ability. He warned Charlton that the magic was extremely hard to learn. Charlton didn't flinch. He said he was ready to give it his all, even if it killed him. Inspired by his determination, Ceres gave him a basic instruction. Start practicing from the fingertips. Charlton, without hesitation, bowed deeply and begged to be accepted as a disciple. He also asked Ceres to keep it quiet. After all, he had a reputation as vice president to maintain. Ceres nodded, accepting him officially. Just then, Charlton's secretary, Daisy, entered. She had urgent news. She handed Charlton a document, a warrant for Ceres' arrest. According to the papers, Ceres had deserted his squad and disobeyed orders, causing a mission to fail. The punishment? Death. Ceres was confused and demanded an explanation. Daisy replied that he'd fled without permission during a mission with the Cyrus squad. Charlton stepped in, saying he'd try to fix things since Ceres was now his master. Ceres tried to explain that he hadn't run away, he'd stayed back to handle the dungeon boss. Daisy wasn't convinced, but she did have reports that Ceres, along with Bella, a C rank, and Tyler, a B rank, had defeated an S rank monster, something she found hard to believe. Ceres requested she send someone to confirm his version of events. Daisy said she already had, but while the investigation was ongoing, protocol required him to be detained. Charlton disagreed, saying he trusted Ceres and would personally oversee him. Daisy reminded him it was against the rules. Charlton pushed back, offering to take full responsibility. Then she reminded him of the guild's appreciation banquet that evening. Charlton wanted to bring Ceres along, but Daisy insisted he reconsider due to the banquet's importance. After thinking it over, Charlton told Ceres to rest for the day. He would come back later that night to take him to the event. Ceres agreed. Once they left, Ceres let out a sigh of relief. He immediately checked his system panel to track Azathoth's location, and to his shock, Azathoth hadn't even left the city. In fact, he was dangerously close. When Ceres stopped to think it over, a terrifying realization hit him. Azathoth was at his house. Without wasting a second, he bolted back home. But when he got there, the place looked empty. As he checked further inside, he saw that Ghana was still around, but Yug was nowhere to be found. Ceres quickly put the pieces together. Azathoth had taken Yug. Meanwhile, in a different scene, Yug stood confused and tense. She asked where she was, and Azathoth calmly answered with a smirk. They were at an underground auction for monsters and humans. Back on the move, Ceres rushed toward Azathoth's signal. He noticed the tracker hadn't moved for over 30 minutes, meaning Azathoth had to be nearby. But just as he got closer, the signal vanished. It was nighttime now, and tracking became impossible. As he moved forward, someone suddenly attacked him. Cirrus dodged easily and wondered who was picking a fight now. The attacker introduced himself as Raka and warned Cirrus that he had entered Star Cavalry territory. According to Raka, they didn't care if someone was a hero or a monster. Trespassers would be dealt with harshly. Hearing the name Star Cavalry, Cirrus recalled they were a gang notorious for kidnapping. Raka mentioned something about female prisoners being used as bait and added that more heroes might be lurking nearby. They planned to capture and interrogate Ceres. That caught his attention. Maybe the female monster they mentioned was Yug. Instead of panicking, Ceres decided it was the perfect time to casually ask if they'd seen a pervy male monster in the area. Just then, his system popped up with a new notification. The weapon return mission would start in 2 minutes. If he entered it, his stats would reset to F rank. He had to wrap things up fast, within minutes. Elsewhere, Yug was trying hard to break free from her magical handcuffs, but had no luck. She felt weak without the nourishment of a male and debated going back to her master, Ceres. Azathoth, curious, asked why she didn't just return to the dungeon. Yug explained that as a Linglang lizard, she naturally relied on male energy. She preferred staying around humans and even joked about how good the wine here was. Suddenly, a loud explosion shattered the wall, and Raka came crashing into the room. Ceres also entered and let out a breath of relief. He'd made it just in time. Ceres casually told them that if they'd just handed over the key earlier, they could have avoided getting whooped. Then his system announced the mission. He had to slap someone's butt until they made a sound. And the timer? Already ticking down. Panicking a little, Ceres turned to the unconscious boy he'd knocked out earlier and asked if he could still scream. Unfortunately, the poor guy had already fainted. Ceres winced. Maybe he hit a bit too hard. Azathoth in another form asked Ceres to help them escape. They were in the monster-infested outskirts, and without system powers, it was risky. He decided to finish the mission first. He unlocked Yug's cuffs and gave her a slap on the butt. She cried out in surprise and asked seductively what he was doing. Ceres explained, very seriously, that he needed to spank her to complete a mission and ensure everyone's safety, so she should just go along with it. Azathoth watched and smirked, thinking, this guy's a menace. But he figured if he played along and flirted, she could get him to do whatever he wanted. So, now appearing in a female form, Azathoth asked Ceres to unlock her too. She promised that if he saved her, she wouldn't mind a little spanking. She'd even offer herself to him if that's what it took. Ceres, flustered but determined, agreed. The second he unlocked the cuffs, Azathoth threw her arms around him and started crying. She told him she'd been kidnapped, terrified, and almost sold off to goblins. Now that he'd rescued her, she claimed she belonged to him. Ceres still focused. Ceres gave her a quick slap on the butt, but no sound came out. His face tightened. Why didn't you scream? Azathoth leaned in close to Ceres with a strange look in her eyes and softly asked him to do it again. Ceres, clearly uncomfortable, was about to decline when his system suddenly displayed a punishment notice. Because Azathoth hadn't made a sound earlier, he would now be frozen for 5 minutes. Before he could react, Ceres collapsed to the ground, his body completely frozen. Yug, crawling toward him in distress, held his head gently and whispered that she desperately needed his blood and body's energy. Without it, she might collapse and die. But Ceres was already locked in place, his eyes barely open. Even frozen, he could still see, just barely, as Yug pressed her lips to his neck. Azathoth, witnessing this, exploded with jealousy. She shouted at Yug, calling her a shameless witch for making a move while her back was turned. She rushed to stop Yug, but Yug quickly wrapped her tail around her and restrained her. Yug calmly told her that Ceres was her master, not Azathoth's. She added that she was the one who'd been with him first. Azathoth fumed but couldn't break free. If it were daytime, she thought, she could have easily handled Yug, but for now, she decided to let it go. Getting the system back was more important than a fight over Ceres. Trying a new tactic, Azathoth suddenly suggested they make it a 3-way romance, and cozied up to Ceres. That left Ceres more confused than ever. Was she really being forced into all of this, or was she willingly flirting with him? High above the room, Sadiel watched everything unfold. She questioned whether Azathoth truly wanted this bizarre interaction with Cirrus, or if something else was at play. But then something even stranger happened. As Azathoth continued her play, Sadiel began to feel it too, as if their bodies were linked because they are. When Azathoth guided Ceres' hand to apply pressure to a certain spot, Sadiel felt goosebumps race across her skin. Her body began to tingle, and she found herself completely overwhelmed by the sensations. Things escalated quickly. Azathoth reached towards Ceres' main spot, and he tensed, praying she wouldn't go any further. At that exact moment, Sadiel felt something strange in her own hands, something that felt very familiar. On the other side, suddenly it clicked for Ceres. He remembered the feeling of this grip. It felt familiar to him. It was Azathoth. Furious, Ceres' expression changed, and Azathoth immediately picked up on it. Her flirty smirk dropped as she realized she'd been exposed. Panicking, she called out to Sadiel, who arrived instantly. Yug, sensing danger, shrank into her smaller form and dashed towards Ceres, asking him to protect her. Bro, Yug is the best. No shit, look at her. Azathoth pleaded with Sadiel to get them out of there before things got worse. Sadiel agreed and started to make her move. Ceres, still stunned, processed the entire situation. Azathoth had transformed into a girl just to get close to him. Luckily, he'd figured it out before falling deeper into their trap. Unfortunately, with his system still locked, he had no way of chasing them. By the time he recovered from the frozen state, Azathoth was already long gone. Ceres decided to refocus. First, he needed to complete the current mission. He made a mental note for the future. If a woman ever approached him at night again, he'd keep his guard up. No exceptions. The scene shifted to a checkpoint at the Z security gate. Daisy stood there, joined by Cyrus and his team, waiting for Ceres. When he arrived, he was confused. Why were they all gathered here? Cyrus approached and presented a warrant. Ceres was under arrest for desertion and had to come with them. But before things could escalate, Daisy stepped forward. She introduced herself as Vice President Charlton's secretary and calmly explained that the accusations were false. The dungeon had already been investigated and confirmed to be empty. The paperwork to revoke the charges was already in motion. In fact, Ceres was scheduled to attend the guild's appreciation banquet later that evening. As Ceres silently counted how many people were with Cyrus, things took a violent turn. Cyrus snapped and slapped Daisy hard across the face. Furious, he shouted that she was lying. Only high-ranking captains were allowed to attend the banquet, and there was no way a nobody like her was connected to the vice president. Then, to everyone's shock, he declared that he was the real president of the guild and told her to scram. He threatened that if she didn't stop interfering, he'd throw her into the interrogation room right alongside Ceres. Trying to stay calm, Ceres told Daisy to contact Charlton directly and ask for formal authorization. He asked if she could get the revocation documents in time. Daisy confidently replied that she could handle it within minutes. Relieved, Ceres praised her and promised that once they got out of this mess, he'd make sure everyone responsible would face a serious punishment. The scene shifted to the cold, tense air of the interrogation room. Ceres is now captured, handcuffed on the table, with Cyrus and his squad glaring down at him. Cyrus stepped forward, voice sharp and accusing, and asked Ceres if he remembered how he'd injured his right hand. Ceres stayed silent. Cyrus continued, claiming that he had bravely led his team into battle against the monster Nay. But according to him, Ceres had attacked him from behind in a cowardly attempt to escape. That moment of betrayal, Cyrus said, had left him vulnerable, and Nay struck, killing most of their team. Cyrus claimed he'd sacrificed his right hand trying to save the survivors. His tone shifted from bitter to furious as he leaned in and demanded to know, did a coward like Ceres even deserve to live? Ceres calmly responded that cowards who run from battle should die like animals. The jab wasn't missed. Cyrus's face twisted with rage as he realized Ceres was subtly calling him the coward. He barked an order for someone to bring the hammer to the table. Ceres, meanwhile, was quietly calculating. It had already been several minutes. Daisy should be arriving with the revocation notice soon. The only problem? His system was still locked. Until then, he had no choice but to endure. Just then, a voice called out, "Yug." She addressed Ceres. She explained that since she'd absorbed some of his blood essence earlier, her magic had partially returned, and thanks to that, she could now handle any torture Cyrus dished out. Of course, there was a catch. Once they were home safe, Cirrus would owe her double. Back at the table, Cyrus slammed the hammer down just beside Cirrus's hand, making him flinch. With a cruel smile, he asked Cirrus which finger he should start with. Or, he added, he could pick one himself. Right before he could bring the hammer down, one of his own teammates interrupted him with a surprising announcement. The vice president's secretary had arrived with Cirrus's revocation notice. Tension filled the room. Even Cyrus was stunned. Could an F-rank like Cirrus really have connections that high up? Nobody could believe that the girl outside was truly Charlton's secretary. Someone hesitantly asked if they should release Cirrus now, since continuing to torture someone after an official revocation would be illegal. Cyrus snapped back, ordering them to wait another 30 minutes. He claimed he hadn't officially received the notice yet, so he didn't know anything about it. Cirrus, furious at the blatant abuse of power, glared at him, but Cyrus just tightened his grip on the hammer and shouted that Cirrus still had to pay. Outside, Daisy was trying to reason with the guards. She insisted she had the right documents, but the guard blocked her, saying she couldn't just walk into an interrogation room. Inside, Cyrus finally brought the hammer down on Cirrus's hand. But nothing happened. No blood, no broken bones, not even a bruise. Confused, Cyrus stared at Cirrus's hand, wondering how the blow hadn't done anything. At that moment, Charlton himself arrived outside. He asked the guard if he had permission to block a vice president. The guard, now pale with panic, quickly stepped aside. Charlton didn't wait another second. He kicked the door open and marched in. Cyrus froze mid-swing. Charlton held up the revocation notice and demanded Cirrus's immediate release. Cyrus, caught red-handed, dropped the hammer and quietly agreed. Once Cirrus was freed, Charlton turned his gaze on Cyrus. He made it clear Cyrus had overstepped. Torturing a subordinate was a serious offense. If the guild opened an investigation, Cyrus could lose his captain's title at best. Nervously, Cyrus defended himself, saying he hadn't received the notice in time. He even claimed his teammates would back him up. But when Charlton looked around the room, no one said a word. No one wanted to challenge the vice president. Charlton turned back and asked Cyrus one final time, what did he have to say for himself now? Cyrus stood frozen, speechless. The only thought in his head was that he needed to run to his brother, and fast. Cirrus stood tall and calmly declared that Cyrus hadn't seen the revocation notice in time, so he wouldn't press charges for the wrongful arrest. However, he did have one condition. Cyrus and his team had to bow and formally apologize to Daisy, the vice president's secretary. The secretary blinked in surprise, clearly not expecting that kind of demand. A few minutes later, the whole Crusade squad was lined up, heads bowed low in front of Daisy. Cirrus stood nearby, holding a stick in his hand like a strict teacher during detention. The squad members took turns apologizing as Cirrus scolded them for daring to mistreat someone as lovely and respectable as the secretary. Then, without warning, he began smacking each of them on the butt. Their yelps of pain echoed through the room, but Daisy, watching from the side, was blushing and smiling secretly as spy, her eyes fixed on Cirrus with a soft expression. One by one, the team shouted their apologies and promised they'd never do it again. With that, Cirrus's system mission was completed. He turned to Cyrus and informed him that the matter between him and Daisy was now considered resolved. Cyrus, still confused and a little shaken, asked what Cirrus meant by resolved. But Cirrus's expression turned dark. He grabbed Cyrus's wrist tightly and reminded him that this wasn't about the arrest anymore. It was about the hammer, the one Cyrus had brought down on his hand. Cirrus's grip tightened. Cyrus cried out in pain, panicking and begging Cirrus for forgiveness. He promised he wouldn't do it again, but Cirrus wasn't in a forgiving mood just yet. He raised Cyrus's arm and slammed it against his knee, snapping the bones with a clean crack. Cyrus's left hand was now broken. His teammates rushed toward him, horrified and asking if he was okay. Cirrus calmly announced that now, he forgave him. Charlton, watching with a raised brow, stepped in and told Cirrus that Daisy would escort him to the banquet. Charlton had a separate meeting with a representative from the Holy See. Cirrus, puzzled, asked what the Holy See even was. Charlton explained that it was a church-like organization focused on purging evil thoughts from the world. Their purification magic was so powerful it could eliminate toxins, heal wounds, even restore lost limbs. A stunning woman, the Saintess of the Holy See, made her entrance alongside Charlton. Her dress, however, caught everyone's attention, particularly two boys who whispered to each other about how revealing it was, especially for someone so holy. Unfortunately for them, she heard everything. She stopped in her tracks, turned, and stared them down. Her voice was calm but sharp. She explained that their doctrine required them to fully understand evil in order to defeat it, and that included recognizing desire. That's why the Holy See's outfits were so revealing. She warned them not to look at her with such dirty eyes. Charlton, furious on her behalf, ordered the guards to slap the two boys 5 times each. But before the punishment could be carried out, she raised her hand and told Charlton there was no need, because if they punished those two, then technically they'd have to punish everyone in the hall, except the president. Charlton blinked, thrown off. "Why not me?" he asked. She smiled. She said that although Charlton's thoughts were chaotic, his body barely reacted. Unlike the others, whose reactions made their evil thoughts obvious, the room went quiet. Charlton cleared his throat and awkwardly replied that it was because he had a pure heart and strong self-control. That might have helped, but whispers started spreading through the hall. Rumors that the vice president might be, well, impotent. Outside, Sarah's and Daisy finally arrived at the banquet venue. Daisy confirmed this was the right place and suggested they go in. On the way, Sarah's asked if the Holy See's purification magic was really as powerful as people claimed. Daisy nodded. She explained that their magic could heal everything from severed limbs to deadly illnesses, even advanced poisoning. However, she added, the Holy See was extremely strict. They refused to help anyone who harbored evil thoughts. That's why even high-ranking hero guilds had been rejected from working with them. Hearing that, Sirius quietly hoped they might be able to cure the poison inside his body. He decided he'd have to approach them soon. As they entered the banquet hall, Sirius noticed a large crowd gathering in one area. He asked Daisy what was going on. She wasn't sure. Just then, Charlton approached and explained that the Saintess was testing everyone's purity to decide if collaboration with the Holy See was possible. If someone passed her test, Zone Z's Hero Guild would earn a powerful new ally, and that could change everything.